No, where's the
Brand.
It's on the keyboard.
I'll get it.
Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There will be strong language and adult themes. Yeah.
I apologize ahead of time if I sound like crap, and if I end up coughing in people's ears, I will try to mute as much as I can.
Yep.
I apologize ahead of time. I'm not pissing. Well, during the show, I'm filling a bottle with water.
Though I can say I have good news. I got my COVID test kit in, and it is negative, so I do not have COVID.
That's good.
It is just bronchitis, probably brought on by allergies, so that means I'm probably past the worst of it.
Yep, and not going to have permanent problems from it.
Yeah.
I can't talk today either.
I was a guest on a stream recently, and I was absolutely flabbergasted toward the end of the stream when one of the people started spouting a bunch of QAnon nonsense about how COVID deaths weren't real and it didn't happen. And I just said, I'm done. I'm done. And the host says, why? What's the problem? Is I've had it.
Yeah. So in the side chat, I see we've got Greg and Demon Orb so far. Oh,
very nice to see you, Granny. I'm glad you're here today.
Well, thank you. It's great to see you too, Jenny, even if I only get to see the avatar.
Yep.
It's good to hear your voice.
I'd go live camera, but first of all, it's got a piece of tape over it, and secondly, I'm buck naked, so I don't think anybody wants to see that.
As long as you put tape over your nipples so that YouTube doesn't, cam the stream.
It's not really the nipples I'd be concerned about.
No, but that's what YouTube would be concerned about.
Oh, okay. Nobody wants to see a furry airport,
Hey, Mark. There's that. Okay.
I'd like to get it out of the way right away because I don't know that you had anything planned, Perp. I'd like everybody just take a minute or so in their mind and think about 23 years ago.
Yeah.
And the 3,000+ people who left us all at once. It's an awful day, and I hope that we can go on. And deal with it today.
Yeah, that was, of course, the big thing for today, but I didn't want to theme the whole show for it. But yes, need to remember.
For those of you who are public television watchers, you'll know that they have one of the things that they put on a regular basis as an interlude between shows are these little 2-3 minute snippet stories that StoryCorps put together. If you don't know what that is, they go out and they interview American citizens to tell a story from their life of whatever nature they feel like talking about, and then they animate it into a little, little animated story of the person telling it. And today was a fairly difficult one. A guy who worked in New York, and he dropped his wife off to work every day, and she worked at the trade centers, and he was across the river in his office, and he saw his wife die.
Mm.
Well, I actually live close by the airport where they learned how to fly.
Yeah.
And my cousin actually met them beforehand. He was in his is my cousin's drug dealer's car. They're getting a ride.
Hmm.
Said that only one of them talked, and the other one just looked really angry all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, well, at the time it started, I was driving and listening to an audiobook, so I didn't even, know about it immediately. And I got home and turned on the TV just in time to see the second plane hit the tower.
The first plane hit the tower as I was taking my two older ones to school. Robin was an infant. Robin was 3 months old. And I dropped the older two at school and heard about it on the radio as I was driving back, and got home in time to turn on the TV and see the second tower fall. And when the second tower fell, I laid Robin down on a blanket and gave him some toys, and I spent the rest of the day watching the TV. The one big mistake I made was my husband was supposed to fly to Washington, D.C. that day, but I knew his plane didn't leave until 1:30. So when they announced at like 11 o'clock in the morning that all planes were grounded, I knew his flight was canceled. What I didn't realize was that my two kids that were in high school at the time didn't know what time their dad's plane was, and they were worried all day that their dad was flying to Washington, and
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they didn't know when the plane was, and I didn't call the school and tell them.
I was,
Yeah.
I was actually woken up, and my uncle came over and woke me up, and he said, "Just turn on the news." And I put on the news, and they were doing a replay of the tower being hit.
I was in my morning ritual. I would have breakfast at a local Greasy Spoon every morning, and as I came out, getting my car started up, and the radio was already on, and at that time they were saying some airliner hit the trade center. We don't know, and some people were saying no, it was a small plane. So there was just total lack of information at that time. I get to work, and we had a television there, and so we turned it on and saw the second plane hit, saw them both collapse. One of the guys I had hired on a temporary training kind of basis was an economics student, and he had just finished a internship out in New York in the Trade Center building, and he knew a couple hundred people that didn't come home.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, a couple years ago, somebody posted on September 11th, what were you doing on 9/11? And I responded with, I lay my son on a blanket with some toys and watched the news all day. And my son saw that and posted to my post, I lay on a blanket with some toys all day.
Yeah, one of the things that, I couldn't help wondering about was, all the hundreds of animals that were just locked up in an apartment, and, their people never came home. And just hoping that at least somebody found them so that at least they got fed.
I'm sure they're okay. I think we think about that sort of thing pretty readily in that kind of situation, because everybody knows their family, and we're always concerned about someone's family.
Yeah, but some people are loners and don't really have
yeah,
connections with people around them much.
that certainly is true.
Okay, well, the audience is starting to arrive here, so I see we've got Ember and we've got Commander here.
Hey, Ember. Hey,
I'm
Commander.
curious. Doorknob Head says that he was laying that day, and I want to know what he was laying. Eggs?
I was thinking a different form of eggs, but I mean, it's Doorknob Head,
Maybe he was laying pipe.
Doorknob's head is like me with a beard, It's a very strange person.
Doorknob had his butts. He was laying butts.
Well, he also said that that YouTube deleted a comment he typed, and I didn't even see it. So
Butts in the butt, Bob. Most people will not understand that. I thought you might, Granny. That's why I said it, and or Perp, that you're both old enough to have experienced it. There used to be this situation, or not situation, a game show on ABC. It was called the Newlywed Game, and newlywed couples would sit there and they get asked questions separately and see how close they match. Blah blah blah. And one of the questions that came around to the husbands were, what is the most unusual place you've ever had sex? And they kitchen, dining room, these kind of answers come, and then the women come out and they answer. When they got to this one woman, her answer was, in the butt, Bob.
yeah, I remember that show.
I remember that show well. One of the funniest things I ever saw on TV was on that show. I swear they have an IQ test for that show. And if you score higher than 80, you can't be a contestant. And one time I saw, they asked the couples, who's a better cook, you or your wife? They asked the men that. And when the wives came back, a woman said that she was, and he showed his card, said that he was. And he said to his wife, you learned to cook from your mother. I learned to cook from my grandmother. And everybody knows that grandmothers are better cooks than mothers. So obviously I'm the better cook. And I thought, okay, and if your wife has a baby, does that mean your mother is now a better cook?
My grandmother could not cook. It was my grandfather who could cook.
I had
Slothgirl always credited her grandmother for most of it, with the one exception that she said that her mother could make a pie crust that was so good that she wouldn't even try to duplicate it.
Oh, actually, it was on my dad's side. My grandmother could cook. She actually had her own restaurant.
Oh wow!
None of my grandparents could cook. My grandma Morgan, like maybe 2 or 3 times in my life, did a ham dinner for folks, and it was okay, but she was one of those pineapple on the ham people, and that's disgusting.
Yeah, my grandmother, well, she was good at improvising because, she could cook whatever Grandpa found in the forest. And yeah, she was not above cooking roadkill if it was fresh.
And
wow.
but she stopped that when they found that body. Sorry,
the body was never found.
Was their last name Dahmer? Or?
No, but I do remember incidents like, the Grandpa had a problem with porcupines in the woodshed, and all of a sudden porcupines were gone and we couldn't quite identify what we were eating.
See, the good thing about capturing porcupines and eating them is that you have at least a year's supply of toothpicks.
Oh, I remember pulling porcupine quills out of her dog, and they were right above her eye. They were like, they missed her eyeball by like half an inch.
Oh, geez.
And just, the way the dog was whelping as we were trying to pull him out.
Are they barbed or something like that?
No, porcupine quills aren't. Well, not really. You have to get quite a good magnification. They even hair is kind of like scaled layers, and the porcupine quills basically are just solidified hair.
Yeah, and yeah, that can have a lot of texture that you just never would see.
Yeah, so
like a
if you
gecko's
magnify them enough, they do have kind of tiny barbs.
yeah, like a gecko's palm with all its little miniature microscopic suction cup type shapes and things.
Yep.
Um, Ember,
Oh,
are you allowed in your state to keep a deer that becomes roadkill? You can in Wisconsin. I imagine there's other states that allow that as well. Of course, you have trouble getting home because your car is totaled, but
yeah.
at least you got dinner.
Yeah, well, Michigan has that you have to notify the DNR when you've hit an animal,
Yeah,
but they will let you keep the meat from it.
I mean, I would if I knew that I had a place to properly dress it and things.
Yeah. Well, when I hit the deer with my van, I was able to, drive about 2 more miles before so I could find a safe place. I don't know what happened to the deer, so I guess it ran back into the forest.
I actually saw a van, and it was an oncoming van, 2-lane state highway, and I saw the deer um, heading towards the road. This guy never saw it. There was a line of trees, and the deer was going to end up coming right out of the end of the trees, and the guy would never see it until it was too late. And I watched the deer take the hit. It was really gruesome, and not something I ever want to see again. Deer are such a nuisance on the roads.
Yeah. No, Dorna, but I didn't drag the deer. It just, when I hit it, I stopped right away. But, the deer was gone by the time I came to a full stop. And basically, I could keep driving the van for a little while, but what I didn't realize at the time was that beside totaling the radiator, it had also broken one of the lines um, for the transmission cooler. So basically, it dumped out all the transmission fluid.
Majestic. Your friend being an art school person, I have to ask: was the porcupine quill an earring, like intentionally, or she had an accident, or they had an accident?
Oh, I didn't see that one. Yeah.
There are these really cool earrings out there that I'm just dying to get, but they're just a little more than I can afford. I've seen them on Etsy, and there's lots of earrings that try to look like it, but there's only one that I found that is just like dead nuts accurately real looking, and it's a spider as an earring,
Mm.
and so it looks like there's a spider crawling up the side of your head. And the
Yeah.
one that's most realistic is a daddy long legs type spider. Oh, they're gorgeous. I would love to have one, but they're like almost $50 or something like that. I'll have to make my own.
You know one that would really freak people out if they did the same thing with a wood tick? That looks like you had a tick attached to your ear.
Actually, I have seen lots of insects on Etsy that are various types of creatures. There's some that like split in half. There's like a tadpole. You cut a tadpole in half, and you got the tail, and you got the head, and they go together through the hole in your ear, and so it looks like you got this little creature hanging out of your ear. Go just do a tour of Etsy and say insect earrings or something like that. And there's miniature elephants that split in half, and they put them on both sides of the ear, and all kinds of fun things. A tick would be kind of small. It'd have to be a large pseudo tick.
Um, They're not all that small, especially when they've been attached for a while.
Well, yeah. It's when they fill up, they're enormous. And first time I saw one, I was shocked at how much blood those little suckers can take in.
Yeah, they can
Holy
swell up to like almost 4 times the original size.
And they're really hard to smash. Their skin is so tough.
Oh yeah, they got
Mhm.
good armor. Stomping them doesn't do any good. You need something that actually pierces the armor.
Yeah, like a razor blade. Cut that fucker in half, and they're done.
Yep. Well, anyway, let's move on from that. Granny came in because I asked if anybody had seen the debate last night. So I hadn't seen it myself.
I saw the second half.
I watched it this morning all the way through.
I missed about the first 10 minutes. It was a lovely evening. It was both interesting observation of human behaviors and an uproarious comedy all rolled into one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I gathered from it was that Trump lost, but Harris didn't win.
And I would agree with that because Harris baited Trump, and Trump showed his colors. He got all mad. She got him
Yeah.
off his game. She did really good at that.
Mhm.
However, the reason she didn't win is what she was lacking going into the debate was a lot of people didn't know what her policies were, and 30% of the people said they hadn't made up their mind because they didn't know what her policies were, and she did not do a good job of explaining what her policies were. She spent the whole time baiting him and letting him be him.
Yeah, that's unfortunate that she didn't put her policies forth.
I think she should offer a second debate, and she could do that
Oh.
then.
I don't think he'll do it.
You think?
No, I don't think he'll accept.
Well,
I think
her
he's
team
got
has
too much
already
to
put
lose.
out that they would do another debate, and Trump hasn't responded.
Right. Yeah, he hasn't accepted, and I don't think he will. I think he realizes that it's not going to help him.
Hey, Amber.
Hey, Amber.
Hello. Howdy. As it happens, I just got out of work.
Oh, cool.
Good.
On the downside, my work headset is just terrible.
Yeah, it's
But
kind of breaking
we
up.
do our best. Is it
we
already?
have Stephanie
Jesus, I haven't
also.
even started driving.
Oh, I have found a picture of one of these undocumented
Half the train's positions
immigrants
change is now in the room.
preparing to eat a cat. So we'll.
Yes, the
They-
eating of pets.
So obviously we have an undocumented immigrant here, and he's preparing to eat a cat.
Oh, no, undocumented alien.
Photographic evidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also worth noting, orange.
Orange? Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Gotta watch out for
Kind-
those orange people,
Kind of a burnt orange.
Well,
especially
know-
the ones with the weird hair.
orange is actually just a very light brown. If you
Or
start
brown is
with
the very dark
brown,
orange.
Debate was how to cook an orange, I think.
yeah, if you start with
Yeah.
brown and you slowly lower the saturation, it'll become orange.
Well, it's hit or miss. If you start with brown, you may get orange, you may get tan or khaki, but if you start with orange and darken it, you get brown.
Lauren Pet has a point. She should have just focused on her policy not to destroy democracy.
I think she won because she needed to make Trump look like Trump is live
Oh, yeah.
for everybody, and
I-
I thought that was the most important mission of the debate. Myself.
Well, I figured that would be her tactic, would be to poke at him and let him show people how unhinged he can be.
Aside from all the lies he told, the only other thing Trump did was just feed meat to his base, so he didn't really do anything.
Yeah, well, a statement Trump made like 2 days ago was something that, people over 80 would be too feeble-minded to, they shouldn't be allowed to sign any legal papers and things like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he's 78.
Mm-hmm.
So isn't he saying that halfway through his term, he's
He
going to
wouldn't be
be
able to
so...
sign anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be
So,
good
related
way.
note that may come from his residency in Florida. There was a news story a few years
Halfway through
ago
his term, we get you
about
advanced.
an 80-year-old who they were trying to try her for murder, but under Florida law, if you're over 80, you don't have to serve jury duty. So her lawyer was arguing, how can she be tried by a jury of her peers when no one her age can be compelled to jury service?
I would hope that didn't work.
I have no idea. Unfortunately, there was never any follow-up that I could find.
I seriously doubt that would work. For one thing, just because they can't be compelled to jury duty doesn't mean they can't serve. They can't be called. And if they choose not to serve, that's not a violation of her rights if they choose not to.
Somehow, I doubt jury of your peers means your age.
Right.
Yeah, that's another squishy bit. Granny, do you have any idea what that actually means? Because I get different definitions from everybody about what peers actually means. Like, is it race? Is it gender? Is it age? Is it the city you live in?
Okay, gender and race definitely are factors because those have been ruled on. Because there was a time when only white men could serve on juries, and when it was brought up that was not a jury of peers for a black person, they won that one. And when women brought the claim that this is not a jury of my peers, they won that one. But to the best of my knowledge, those are the only classes that have been tested. Any other class, it would have to go through legal scrutiny to determine whether or not that is a legitimate class. It needs to, if it's a protected class, that would help. But even there are certain protected classes that I know wouldn't go through, like nationality. If you said I'm Italian and there were no Italians on the jury, you're not going that's not going to fly. And I think a big part of that is because Italians weren't excluded from the jury. That was the whole reason they won on the race and the gender, was because prior to that being a right, Black people and women were excluded from juries.
That makes a lot of sense.
This might cover it.
So you can't argue that since my client is pleading insanity, the jury needs to include people who are clearly not sane.
I think you should try it, Purple. That might be worth the risk.
But would that be people who are medicated or not medicated?
Well, insane is actually a legal term, not a medical term. And so to be insane, you need to be adjudicated as insane. And if you've been adjudicated as insane, then you can't serve on a jury.
Oh, okay. That I didn't know.
Well, see, that would clearly be unfair if you're pleading insanity.
So Trump could never be on a jury.
Except he's never been adjudicated as insane.
Yeah. If I was a lawyer and he came up for jury duty, I wouldn't even ask him any questions. I'd just say protest out the door with this monkey.
Okay, Orla's saying, to be fair, if there is a bias against something, that should mean that if you can't get jury members of that minority group, besides actual minors, then yeah, I'd probably have to agree.
Granny, in voir dire, are you limited to as to how many people you can reject?
Okay, there's two different kinds of strikes. You get strikes for cause and preemptive strikes. The strikes for cause, you can have as many of those as you need. So if someone says that they are not going to be fair, or they say something that you think is a reason that they are not going to judge the case on the evidence, you immediately ask the judge to strike for cause, and the judge will determine whether or not that is sufficient to strike them for cause. If the judge says no, that's not enough to strike for cause, then you have to use one of your preemptive strikes, and you have a certain number of those. And the number that you have varies from state to state and court to court.
Hmm.
Okay, now is there like a pre-screening, before it actually goes to the lawyers? Because like I've been called for jury duty twice, and
Mhm.
both times they rejected me because of my Tourette's.
That's interesting. I'm not aware of any kind of pre-screening, although I do know that, they give you a card to fill out, and there's certain things, blocks you can check that will allow
Yeah.
you to not participate in jury duty, and age is one of them. If you're over a certain age, you don't have to go. You can claim certain types of hardship,
Yeah.
and if you claim one of those, you don't have to go. But if you don't claim any kind of an exemption, then I thought that they just called everybody, but that may not be the case. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
I
that's
usually call.
they rejected me as soon as I showed up without, the lawyers asking me any questions,
Yeah, I
Hmm.
usually
just from
write.
being on my medical record. Sorry,
I,
Mage,
I
what?
usually write in that I have a social anxiety disorder, so I'm not to take me, and that seems to be acceptable.
Yeah.
I was called for jury duty once, and I really, really didn't want to serve. I would, I had the shop to take care of, and I just couldn't be away. And everybody told me that, well, the shop thing is not a valid thing to get out of. So I came up with my own idea when they asked me, "Do you have any problems making a decision in this particular subject?" which was somebody suing the city for a traffic accident. I said, "Well, it's my belief that all the police and all the courts are involved with each other, and that there is really no truth in juries or court proceedings." So I would
So you were
find
struck
it.
for cause.
Oh yeah, before I even finished talking. And they dismissed me, and I left, and I never served on a jury duty again.
My husband has served like 3 or 4 times. I served once, and I've been jealous because I liked serving on jury duty, and I've only been called once.
I keep getting them like almost every year.
Really? Wow.
Well,
Actually, I take it back. I have been called more than once, but in Indiana, they have, they call like 500 people, and then when it comes to the day of your trial, you're supposed to call in, and if they call your number, then you go in, and if they don't call your number, you don't. And most of the people that get a card that they're going to need to come in actually don't end up coming in. And that's what happened to me, is twice I got a card, but my number wasn't called. Only once was my number called.
Wait a minute. Doorknob used to be a cop.
yeah, that's what he says.
Damn. I wonder what their criteria is.
Well,
no offense, Doorknob.
okay, used to be. It's kind of a question of, which was the cause and which was the effect. That was being a cop what made him the way he is now.
Fair question.
The time I served on jury duty, they never asked if any of us had any kind of legal background. So I never told anyone that I was a lawyer. If I had, they probably would have kicked me off, but they didn't ask, so I didn't tell.
Yeah. Well, the second time they called me, I was unemployed at the time. So, I would have done it because any paycheck's better than nothing.
Yeah, God, what was it? What was it when? I think they were paying like $20, $25 a day.
Mm-hmm. Enough
And
to
you-
cover your lunch, and that's about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, and had to buy your own lunch at the cafeteria, which was absolutely horrible.
Yeah. When I got the second time I got pulled, it was like $40 a day. Yeah, which was still like far below minimum wage, but I kind of wondered how they got away with that. They could pull you off your regular job and not even pay you minimum wage.
Mm-hmm. Well, your employer is supposed to still pay you, though, if you get called for jury duty.
I was not aware of that.
I wasn't either. I could have paid myself. Oh well. It's too late now.
Yeah, it seems that Ember and Stephanie are both having some difficulties with their setup.
Oh.
So
The internet is very rude today.
I was saying that before we came live that mine seems really slow and the response from YouTube is especially slow.
Mm.
Perp, I would bet any money that if you said that you were trans in any jury duty situation, they would say no, go away.
Oh, thankfully, I fixed my internet problem.
Could they automatically dismiss everybody who's trans if it was maybe a case that involved a trans person?
Well, they can't dismiss everyone who's trans if anyone realizes that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
If it becomes clear that that's although if you're using your preemptive strikes, yeah, I think you could get away with that. I don't know. That's a good question.
Tsunami.
That's a good question.
Tsunami, your squirrels eat better than I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it was a case that somebody was pleading the trans panic defense, I would think having somebody who's trans on the jury would make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, but that would if the person who's charged is trans, I would think that they would not want you on the prosecutor wouldn't want you on the jury for potential bias.
Yeah.
Hey, Skitzy.
Hey, Skits. You had a short day, Purpose? Okay, and Dornham says he was only a reserve officer.
I think it depends. Like if the person who would be the juror is like a Buck Angel or Blair White, that would change things a bit than somebody who doesn't hate other trans people.
I'd never want Caitlyn Jenner on my jury.
Yeah.
I hated how the citizenry includes her as like one of the first people that they bring up as a representative of trans. It's just like, oh my God. That's so wrong. She is so non-representative of the trans world. Porpoise, are you sure? That I couldn't believe that he actually said that too. It was like your advisors are that stupid that they didn't tell you, or they're that incompetent that they couldn't convince you not to say that.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things that the moderator fact checked him on.
Again, there are people who believe that crap.
Yeah, I've encountered people who believe that crap. I think that Tim Wolf's allowed it in the partial birth abortions.
There are people who, in some of our lives in TikTok, have actually come up and complained about that, is about bringing kids to school and sending them home with a sex change, in their words.
That would have been a great segue to what I was trying to put together, but I don't have the energy or breath to say it.
Most schools can't even afford their damn school nurse. They're going to hire a physician and operating team? I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Okay, I just looked it up, and you cannot use preemptory challenges for racial reasons. You can't exclude everyone from a particular race, but that is the only category that you cannot use preemptive strikes against.
Well, that
Hmm.
may vary state to state,
Hmm.
because Minnesota does list transgender as being a protected class.
Well, yeah, it is a protected class, but not for preemptive jury strikes.
Okay. I was wondering if, that could vary from state to state, though, or...
No, because the law in that is Batson, which is a Supreme Court case.
Hello, Laura.
Hello there. How are you doing?
Hi, Laura.
Hello.
Oh,
Good evening, everybody. I say good evening because it's nearly 9 o'clock at night here.
Laura's turned into a white dot. Hi,
I don't
Laura.
know why it didn't load in my...
Yeah, your avatar didn't come up.
Well, I'm fine. I'm glad that
Let me
StreamYard
try and come
finally has
back.
a
Give me a
dark
sec.
mode.
What was that, Mage?
I'm glad StreamYard's finally has a dark mode.
Yeah, well, I keep my whole computer in dark mode, so that seems to take care of StreamYard. There's just sometimes I load up web pages that don't do it. And that's difficult to get just too blaring white at night. But I have to keep dark mode 24/7, and I need sunglasses anytime I try to go outside, so. Hey, Sammy.
I'm finding more and more websites are using a white background with the gray text. It's hard to read unless you switch
Yep.
to dark mode.
Yeah.
I don't like the emojis that are dark, like musical notes.
Mm.
They just fade off into nothing. In
The
dark
one
mode.
I have a real problem with dark mode is that it tends to change all the colors.
Oh, that seems odd.
There we go.
Okay. There we go.
Can I do a little bragging?
Sure.
Go right ahead.
All right. The reason I'm here at this point in time, as opposed to every other Wednesday for the past 4 months, is that the J24 season is over and we won our season championship last weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yay!
Yay.
Very cool.
Happy old lady. That's me. But a very sore one Monday. I'll tell you, it was blowing 20 to 30 knots on Sunday. And we did 6 races. No, wait, 4 races in that breeze, and yeah, it was hard.
Well, that's very cool. Do you get lots of money?
I get no money. I got a nice little mug, which is around here somewhere, but a nice little coffee mug that says we were third in the regatta, but that was good enough to secure us a season championship against our arch rival. Over the course of 37 races, the average score between the two of us was only 0.2 of a point. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. Wait a minute. 0.2 of a point. So yeah, it was kind of quite the battle.
Is that your first win that way?
Oh no, we're probably the winningest boat over the course of the past 20 years.
Oh yeah.
Fleet, yeah.
Well, that's very cool. Congratulations.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to still do it.
And a similar thing, I may be becoming a trans woman in sport, competitive sport myself.
Congratulations.
I started doing karate last year, and I'm now an orange belt, which is nice. And there's a competition at the end of the month, the 27th, And I haven't decided whether I'm going to go in yet or not.
I presume they break that down based on belt color.
Yeah, belt color, age, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Now, gender isn't really a thing, depending on what competition you're doing. If you're doing fighting competition, then it is, and that would give me a lot of intrepidation about what are they going to put me as? Because that old trans women in sports bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
However, what I'm looking to do is kata, so the the form. It's like a preset group of movements, and I'm not too bad at that. You know, I'm good at getting a sequence and so on.
Oh, you mean like a Tai Chi sequence of moves?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
A lot more regimented than Tai Chi, I believe, though. So because it's not a physical attacking, it's not me versus anybody else in any other sense than, making movements. I'm not physically hitting anybody. So it's there is no difference, it's just age and belt. Now, weirdly, I might have a chance of coming home with a medal, because what you find with karate is that a lot of the people who do it started younger, and I started when I was 49. I'm 50 now, so as a result, there's probably not going to be many adult orange belts. I mean, the last grading I took when I got to become an orange belt, I had an advantage of everybody else that when I got my grading, I was able to go home and have a glass of wine to celebrate.
Does having or being an orange belt conflict with your feelings about Donald Trump, or?
No, it's just a color.
Okay.
That reflects my grade. I did have this idea though. If there was an orange cocktail made, if there was a Donald Trump cocktail made, would it be orange and bitter? Because I think that would be the
yes, definitely.
A Negroni.
Yeah, and the colors on the belts can vary depending on who you're taking. Like the karate I took didn't have an orange belt.
And it would be a very expensive drink and only filled halfway.
Oh, Doorknob Head's leaving us.
Oh, Doorknob.
Bye.
Bye
See you,
bye.
sweetie.
Come over here, Athena.
Officer.
The stream needs cats.
And I did see. Hi, Claire. And who else have I missed here?
Yeah, Claire just came in.
Hot Miss Summer. I missed you. Sorry.
Yep.
Welcome. And
Sumami.
And who's this porpoise person?
I don't know. Never met her before in my life.
A porpoise isn't a person. Well, okay, a porpoise is a person. It's not a human.
Well, it depends whether or not you talk to J.D. Vance. It's...
Yeah.
They're eating porpoises in Springfield, in case you didn't know.
Maid, should we offer people the
Please
porpoise
don't.
imagery? No. It's not an assault on you.
Listen, 2 dolphins, 1 couch is more than I ever needed to see.
Yeah, I agree.
There you go.
Well, interestingly enough, I was looking at these anime awards, and there was actually a trans character in the best girl category. She didn't win, but I'm sure if she did, it would have been because of her male advantage in best girl.
There was another trans woman who was accepted into some big ass beauty competition too.
There was some big beauty pageant a couple of months ago. I think it was somewhere in South America, and it was a trans woman who won. And then she also announced that she was engaged to one of the other contestants in the pageant.
Even better. That's great.
Oh, that must drive the haters nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I've got a
Graham
political.
Linehan, Graham Linehan would certainly become even more apoplectic had he heard that news, I suppose.
I guess I should have come on with my other YouTube alter ego.
I've got a
OnlyFans
political.
porpoise images, but
Hmm.
how would porpoises do in OnlyFans, as I've never seen a porpoise wearing clothes?
Well, look. Well, you can't really see her clothes, but you could just look down to the image of Porpoise here. Stand up and model for us, Porpoise.
I was going to say, pretty sure you can see my clothes.
Well, a little bit. We'd rather see you naked, though.
No, you wouldn't.
I don't know about other people. I don't like to see me naked.
Well, I won't offer the picture to show up to respect Porpoise's wishes. But
Tell you what.
Mage did this lovely AI image, and it's this,
Okay.
this
She's not
vinyl
gonna
leather-looking couch and two porpoises or dolphins
It's okay.
coming out between the seam between the
Yeah,
seat bottom and the seat back. And
I had
it's really
assumed.
extremely well done, and I saw it and I instantly had to write as a caption: two porpoises, one or two dolphins, one cup or one couch.
Yep.
Speaking about that, I got a question. It's a political question. Do you think that Trump is regretting choosing JD Vance now that because Trump's skin is starting to look like an old leather couch? Don't you think that's a little bit worrying for Trump?
I don't think he's smart enough to be concerned.
No, he's already wanted to switch him out.
If we're going to engage in wild speculation, I think the only reason he's running for president again is because he has immunity from everything he's done and he doesn't want to go to jail.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but that's only for acts, things that he's done while president and actual acts of the presidency. That's
Yeah, but the campaign is keeping him out of jail for now. They put off his sentencing in his 34 felony convictions until after the election. If he wasn't running for president, they would have already done his sentencing.
I like to believe that Martian will give him actual jail time, considering how just reprehensible a person he is and was during the entire court procedure.
I hope so.
He deserves it. Even my fantasy of that is that he gets 4 years for every count.
Yeah.
Consecutive.
Well, since we have a cat on screen, would you guys like to see what evidence is being passed around of these immigrants eating cats?
Sure, I'm okay.
I will warn there will be bigoted rhetoric in this video. I won't play the whole thing.
Is it another Alf clip?
Oh. Sammy is sleeping on my leg now.
No, this is legit. This is legit what they're passing around.
Don't wave at me, you sorry sand monkey.
There was Haitians in a white van driving around the neighborhoods, collecting cats, skinning them, and eating them.
In my opinion, they're worthless. Bunch of worthless fucking sand monkeys.
They're getting thousands of dollars in.
Haiti is not in the sand. Tropical island.
Yeah, this is apparently these reports from these people are what's being passed off as evidence. And this is a 25-minute clip of just basically what you're seeing here. He does interview a few people who are black here, and they say, no, that's not happening.
God, the bigotry in this country is just so absolutely obscene.
And
it's similar in the UK. I call it the Brexit effect, but Trump effect works exactly the same way. So we had a referendum, and suddenly the racists think, I can now tell black people and F off back home, etc., etc. And, because they got away with it, the homophobes and transphobes, the sexists, etc., etc. And the same story is, we had Trump and he's a bigoted arsehole, so now I can tell black people to F off back home. Same story.
Yeah.
Is that your boat, Stephanie?
Yep. I don't know if that's hers, but those are inflated sails.
As opposed to Donald Trump's inflated ego.
Yeah, the
So-
one in the front.
Sorry, excuse me. let
That's
me
not all
clarify.
he has to inflate.
Yeah, let me just clarify. Self-inflated ego.
Yes, his tiny little mushroom. Somebody said it was measured at they said 20 or 2 centimeters, and said that's the size of a penny. And well, I'm sorry, a penny is 19 millimeters, which is 3/4 of an inch.
Well, we'll have to ask Stormy, right?
Well, she held her fingers up once, and it looked like about 2 centimeters. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amber, when I was living in Syracuse, they had us saying that there were no stray cats in Savo.
It's like one of the go-to bigotry, false bigotries. I've heard them say that about any Mexican restaurant, and it's just, it's so infuriating.
There was one Chinese restaurant around my area that did get caught eating, I believe it was dogs around the neighborhood. And yeah, they were shut down.
Yeah, I'm sure the health department would. Weird Al even did a parody of it.
Cat in the Kettle, the Peking Moon. Well, funny. It's
Yep.
not Weird Al.
Cats in the cradle, or the cats in the grill.
Are you sure? I thought that was Weird Al. Okay.
I can be very controversial here. It's good for the show. You get more clicks. I don't have. It's an awful, horrible thing to steal somebody's pet, but I don't have a problem with people choosing to consume those 2 animals. Not if they are a pet or they have to steal them, but for those cultures that do that, I just don't have a problem with that. And I always fall back to, we eat cows, and that is just the absolute biggest sin in India.
Yeah.
So,
Well, in that video I showed, they also mentioned how, they're getting these cards that basically have unlimited money on them. Okay, or they're getting $3,000 whatever a month. Okay, so if they're getting all this money to be able to buy groceries, what the hell are they doing going around eating all these stray animals? If that's also the argument.
yes, and they're not getting that money either.
As someone who moved far enough away that I can no longer get Pennsylvania Dutch food easily here, sometimes I just have to make my own Pennsylvania Dutch food.
How many Pennsylvania Dutch do you have to put in a given dish?
They'll let you know.
I used to chuckle about how sort of the funny Christians would say that atheists eat babies, and it's like, look, that's just a ridiculous statement. Number one is not enough. There's just not enough meat on them, and besides, the prime reaping time is Halloween, because they're candy fed.
Yep. I'm sure was asking how would it be a health department violation? It's just another animal. But I think for the restaurants, they're not generally taking in whole animals. They're not dealing with. Yeah, well, I mean, as far as what the health department knows, they're not dealing with removing the fur and feathers and so forth.
I wonder if they'd save the fur. I mean, that could be a very useful insulator and a lovely fashion statement.
I'm screen sharing something for you.
Oh.
I thought this was
okay.
It's a very old meme.
Yep.
Oh man.
Well, it's because any stray animals or even pets could harbor or illnesses.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
where
if you're,
if they go through the standard
yeah,
processing, they're checking for anything like that,
I
any
know
virus or
somebody.
bacteria.
I know
Sorry.
somebody who used to be a federal meat inspector, and she'd work in a number of the different slaughterhouses, um, pig slaughterhouses, and oh geez, I asked her not to even talk about it. It's so grotesque sounding.
Did she work at Slaughterhouse 5?
No, I think it was all three. Wasn't very popular, but
I've
When
made a
when
point.
I
I've
when I
made a
lived
point.
in West St. Paul, the slaughterhouse there, they had apparently the cows broke down one of the fences and escaped. But like 3 weeks later, there was still one bull that they hadn't managed to capture, and it was still wandering around the neighborhoods.
I made it a point to watch videos on slaughterhouses just so I know how my food's being processed. And I
Yeah.
have actually seen situations where a gate gets knocked down and all the cows are coming out. And remember, there's this like one cow that's like mooing at all the others, like come back, back.
Actually, a member at my university of an organization called Women in STEM Professions. Last year, we do like a STEM movie night every year. The STEM movie night was about Temple Grandin.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking of her. Go ahead.
Yeah. And having my first job was working in a meat room. It's like I don't want to know any more about how meat is processed. That was gross enough. I don't need to know more.
I wonder if she's still around.
Temple Grandin, I think she's still alive.
Okay, well, if we could, while I'm usually not big on discussing politics, I was looking for people's reactions to the debate. So was there, anything that really stood out there?
One thing that stood out to me was that there were a number of times when Trump confirmed what Kamala Harris said about him. For example, there was a point where Kamala Harris said that Trump's relationship with Putin was, that he loves dictators and so forth. And Trump started out by denying it, but then some of the things that he said completely supported what Kamala Harris said. And that happened in more than one place in the debate. It also happened over the issue of Ukraine. And I thought it was interesting that I don't even think Trump realized that even though he denied what she said, his explanation confirmed what she said.
I know that there was a big problem with his position on Ukraine, that, he had talked about, that he would get them to sign a treaty, but he didn't necessarily say that Ukraine could be independent.
Right. And they asked him that point blank, if you say that you would end that war immediately, what would you have done? And he did not answer that question.
One of the things to bear in mind, of course, with Ukraine is Trump doesn't care. He would gladly see the country go to Russia and Zelensky get trampled, because Zelensky wouldn't help Trump out to go after Biden.
Yeah.
There was that whole thing about, we need you to get the goods on Hunter Biden and therefore his dad. Otherwise, we won't send you any weapons. And that went on for a year and a half?
Yeah.
So it is another example of one of the grudges that Trump holds.
Yeah, and that's the one thing Trump has been clear on, is that he plans to get vengeance on everybody he feels wronged him.
Yeah.
Didn't he also discuss Orban of Hungary?
Yeah. Viktor Orban. Yeah.
So
he spent a lot of time on that.
I know one person, one trans woman who's living here, got married and living in Michigan now, who's from Hungary, and she talks about how just absolutely horrendous horrible that man is, and the shit that goes on there, especially against trans people.
The Catholic Church is still very strong in Hungary.
Yeah, I think what Mark Caesar says pretty much sums it up, that, Trump makes a lot of big promises, but he doesn't really have any plans for how to make any of these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I thought the debate reminded me a lot of like the old debate between R. and Raw and Kent Hovind. When it first happened, it had that nice, comforting glow of a dumpster fire.
Mm.
And the sides were clearly mismatched.
Yeah.
Because Kamala Harris was masterfully wounding Trump's ego at every available opportunity.
Yeah.
And I have a question for all the people who have ever been involved in political campaigns or debates. How often is a valid source for debate? I saw it on TV.
Oh,
yeah.
Never. I like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. For me, debates are never to anything more than talking to your base, like Mage said.
Yeah.
Except they also are of interest to the independents. Those are the people who are swayable.
Yeah.
And so I think last night's was very good for the people who would sit there, and of course none of us know why, but they sit there saying, well, I'm not sure which I vote for.
No, it wasn't good for that.
Why?
She didn't come across as convincing. That's the
And-
problem.
He
did bad. Trump did bad, but she didn't bring across anything that would convince people.
Yes, but Kamala did not talk. One thing Trump did that I think is telling of where his mindset is, that shows that he should not be in power anywhere, is that when Kamala invited people to attend his rallies.
Oh God, that was brilliant.
And rather than answer what the question was about, he goes to immediately defend his rally crowd size.
Mm-hmm.
Once more, it's ego. Yeah. It's always ego with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what the question was about.
Donald showed last night that he's all about Donald, and
Yeah.
if Kamala did anything, she brought that out.
Well,
brilliantly.
Go ahead, Jenny.
And the other thing is, I just have a couple of observations. Last night before the debate, I was having a discussion. I ran a sailboat race last night for the Etchells class. I'm running regatta this weekend for the Etchells class. One of a gentleman I've known for a very long time, absolutely solid Republican, and his brother is even more solid Republican. And the topic of the debate came up after the race. Like everybody's like, hey, we got to get out of here and watch the debate. And Seth said to me, I've voted Republican my whole life, but I can't vote for this man. I think that it's and this guy's coming from an extremely conservative perspective, and I think that for people like him, that's solidified that Trump's performance last night was abysmal.
That's been coming up from some of the pollsters too, that people that we're interviewing are saying.
I also really, this is the last thing I'll say, I also really think that people are underselling the policy positions that Kamala did take about taxing the middle class less, about tax credits, about abortion, about all of these things. I mean, she doesn't, she's reinforcing the successes about immigration, even. She's reinforcing the successes of the Biden administration, and they are considerable, given what Biden had to work with, Biden and Harris had to work with in the legislative branch over the course of the past 4 years. So yeah, you can't Did she hit a home run?
Ah,
Well, I'm not sure she did, but did she have to? Maybe just a series of singles would have made the score enough to win the debate, and I do think that's what happened last night. And now I'm done.
She didn't.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. To continue the sports analogy, she didn't have to hit a home run because she pitched a perfect game.
And that kind of is a good metaphor for what I can keep thinking about this, and how I always clash with Mage on this. I agree with you, Mage, that she did not sell herself, but there are two things that are critical if you're going to convince people to vote for you. It's not only what you have to sell, but how bad your opponent is. And that, I think, in this particular Donald Trump case, was the most important thing to do.
Yeah, she did a good job of showing how bad her opponent is, but she didn't do a good enough job of selling herself, which is an important aspect of getting the independent vote.
And that you can do in speeches and commercials and many different sources, but to have him make a fool of himself like he did, that live interaction and right in front of your face happening this second, is unbeatable for its impact.
I wonder if so. One of the things I've said for many years, when in the run up to 2016, when he was talking about grabbing by the whatever,
Yeah.
it's like, and that didn't harm him, because it's like, yeah, but that's Trump. That's what Trump's like. We know what Trump's like. If any other politician said that, if J.D. Vance said that, that would probably kill any career, or at least traditionally it would have done.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it should have, but it was that.
Let me just finish. So for Trump to last night come out with they're eating cats and dogs, and it's like, and it's like, I saw it on TV. Well, it's like, yeah, but we know this is what Trump's like. So when it comes to the sort of the policies and the things that the Republican hardline would like to see happen, is that going to make any difference to them at all? I don't think so. I think there's going to be Republican swing voters, possibly swing voters, who are going to like, yeah, I know he says stupid stuff, but he says a lot of elements that I do agree with, and that's why I'll vote for him, even if I have to hold my nose or stick my fingers in my ears when he's talking a lot of nonsense for a few moments.
How can anyone who can form an coherent English sentence and a complete one say Trump has brilliant points?
I didn't say that. I wasn't saying that he has brilliant points. I'm saying that effectively that people are selective in what they believe.
I'm just saying I can't even tell if he has good ones because he can't speak in complete sentences.
No, that's true.
He doesn't understand the concept of a period. Everything he says is a run-on sentence for paragraphs at a time.
No, it's not even a run-on. Most of it are just clauses that are either a subject or a predicate, but somehow they never connect.
Well, yeah, exactly. He is so tangential. He cannot have a single thought that he can follow through to the end. He has no conclusion, no period.
Well, I think, though, back to the debate, the people who are saying that they're still undecided at this point, I think a lot of them are people that are just tired of having to vote for the lesser of two evils.
Well,
So
if they vote this time, they'll never have to vote again.
Yeah. But I think they're feeling that, they know why they should vote against Trump, but they don't feel they've been given anything to vote for.
This whole thing with Israel is really hurting Harris as well, because she's not steering away from it.
No, she doubled down on Biden's position on Israel, so.
And you're not going to get a perfect candidate, but these are the candidates that you have. And
but when we're talking, Yeah, but when we're talking
I
genocide,
I
it
have an
kind
honest
of matters.
disagreement with you. I think she's doing a good job selling herself.
No, when we're
Not
talking
necessarily.
when we're talking genocide, it matters.
Yeah. No, she is doing a good job overall, but yeah, this is a very big issue. You know, it's not.
It is.
Yeah.
Not dismissing it, and certainly when you're talking genocide, it matters.
Yeah. It's something that
But
a
that's
lot of
not on
people
the
can't get past
table
that.
for the election. I'm sorry, but it's
Yeah.
not.
Well, also the people need to ask how would Trump handle it any better?
He'd
How
be
would
far,
Trump handle
far
the
worse.
Israeli
But Bibi
situation? Yeah.
Netanyahu hangs out at the Kushner's apartment, his son-in-law's
Yeah.
parents'
Quote,
apartment, whenever
quote,
Bibi is in New York.
quote,
Okay.
let Israel finish the job, Donald Trump.
I just want to
That's
say
his position.
I'm going to announce my candidacy now in a new political party, Vicious Mockery for a Better Tomorrow. I don't know where I was going.
I missed the word. What are we?
Vicious Mockery for a Better Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to actually put up a candidate. We're just going to make fun of Trump until the rest of the election.
Well,
the other thing, one other detail about Trump is he was able to get away with this shit in 2016. I think he's lost so much support from the people that have gotten to know him throughout his presidency.
Definitely.
All of his staff that won't come back. I mean, certainly some of them will. Stephen Miller, that self-hating fellow, is perfectly happy to keep, to keep his snout up Trump's ass crack. But there are a vast number of people that served in the Trump administration who say never, never. But the man is a danger to American democracy. That makes a difference.
Well, I think
because all of those guys who were willing to work for him 8 years ago, they're not anymore, and they're out on the hustings saying we can't have this man anywhere near.
Well, not to mention.
Yeah, how many of the people who worked most closely for Trump are now serving sentences?
Well, there was also another brilliant line in the debate that was also deliberately chosen to goad Trump, I believe, where Harris said Trump was fired by 84 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that baffles me is like Trump doesn't seem to understand how numbers work and how people might be inspired to vote.
Yeah.
So he made this claim that he didn't lose because his people said that if you get 63 million or whatever it was, that he can't lose. And so when he got more than that amount, it's like I won. I should have won, except for the fact that the people that were wanting to vote for Trump, they were inspired to go because they were afraid of Biden. And equally, on the Democratic side, the people that were afraid of Trump were voting for Biden. And so it just inspired a record amount of people to vote. And it just happened to be the record amount of people to vote ended up voting more for Biden than they did for Trump. And I don't think he understands this qualification.
A lot of keyboard noise.
Yeah, Porpoise also didn't mention their hidden agenda. That that the cetaceans want to go for the second great flood and flood the whole world again.
No, we're supporting Cthulhu for America.
Doom for everyone.
We want a candidate with proven worlds-destroying experience.
Reliable morals.
Reliable morals.
Hey, I've been able to work with people on that, if I know their motivation, I know what I can trust. Even if I think they're misguided, if I understand their motivation, I know how far that they'll work with me.
And he promises to free humanity from the prison of sanity.
That's
like
true.
like Bender, I've come to free you from your complicated lives. From the complicated part, I mean.
But yeah, Trump has never understood how money works or how numbers work. That's why
Yeah.
he's managed to bankrupt actual casinos.
Well, and that was the thing that why he won in 2016. Is people were convinced he was a successful businessman and he was going to run the country like a business.
Well, Trump is good at marketing. He's not good at business.
Yeah.
He's not very good at marketing either.
Well, I don't know. He sold an awful lot of those red hats.
Yeah,
That's true. And the sneakers.
He
Okay,
must
yeah.
have been pretty good at marketing. He really did, make his name a brand, that really sold very well for quite a number of years.
Well, I mean, that's branding, which isn't the same as marketing.
I think he missed a lot of marketing opportunities as far as product choices that, with his name and history and how we feel about him. Imagine how well Trump condoms would sell, Trump toilet paper.
Guaranteed to fail.
Trump toilet paper would sell a lot.
That's true. Yeah.
It's been available on Amazon for some time.
Yeah, you can get
Trump suppositories.
Yeah, you can get Trump toilet
Well,
paper.
did you hear?
Can I just point out that there is a British slang word, which is Trump equals fart.
Yep.
So Trump suppository, that gives me the giggles in my head there.
Yep. This is not a joke. The Republicans' actual campaign idea at this point, to have boots on the ground and people knocking on doors, is that their volunteers will get a special edition MAGA hat.
Oh.
That's it. That's their whole incentive to get people to go out and door knock for them.
They're not going to give them a free Lee Greenwood Bible. I mean, a Trump Bible.
Yeah.
See, yeah, that would sell a lot.
But yeah,
Ew.
when they were asked about their plan to just get boots on the ground and get people out campaigning, they made a big deal that they had over 350 people doing this.
Yeah, I don't think
that's 350 people nationwide. So that comes out to being about, 7 people per state.
I don't think I've seen the same energy for Trump this time around.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, donut.
And yes, this is a real product I have on screen.
Yeah.
I enjoy that it exists, but I hate it.
Orla?
You can make him kiss your ass.
It would cause diarrhea.
But I don't want that, though.
Orla, I understand you wanting to support the giant meteor, but it's just a one miss wonder. Go for the candidate with proven worlds destroying experience. Vote Cthulhu.
Well, we all know about how gravity works and how things stay in orbit. So would it be possible for a large enough meteor to hit the moon to knock it out of its orbit so it crashes into the Earth?
Well,
kind of like billiards.
That's not possible because the moon's not real.
That's true. That's true.
It's just a hologram.
And it's hollow. So a meteor would just go right through. No, you'd need a meteor
it's also
like the
flat.
size of Mars.
If only Dr. Tapioca Weasel were here, we could ask him and how we could do it with a magnet.
Yep.
You could ask him, but he's a particle physics guy. He'd be all about shining lasers at it. And you technically could move the moon out of its orbit with lasers. You just need a lot of lasers.
I think somebody should put together a costume. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling here. A costume of a Trump as a furry.
Why?
The indignancy of it.
Why would you want to insult furries?
Those poor furries are getting enough shit.
I'm an equal opportunity insulter. I don't really care. Okay, let's make a Donald Trump trans Donald Trump.
Hey, once I saw someone post something on Facebook a couple days ago saying she didn't know she she didn't know her boss had dementia for years. And I almost responded, it's like, JD Vance came out as trans?
I really enjoy how JD Vance is his thing with couches and stuff is all bullshit, but it's just a great joke that is hung on, and it looks like it probably will follow him for his whole life.
Now, the dolphin thing is true, kind of, because he actually did search for that.
Search for what? I'm sorry.
Some sort of dolphin porn. He actually did
Dolphin
search
porn.
for that because you could see the bolded terms in what he posted.
Oh yeah, that part I understand.
And the pictures of him in drag are also real.
Yeah, and his eyelashes just do happen to be such a construction that they do look like eyeliner. He's just getting nailed for all of that.
I think one of the funniest things I saw was it was one of these talking people on MSNBC, and they said about how JD Vance has flip-flopped all over the place, where he was a never Trumper not that long ago. And now, for convenience, which has worked for him because he's now, a VP pick. So he has no convictions at all, as opposed to Donald Trump, who's got lots.
Yeah. Well, that's been the one point the Harris campaign keeps hitting on, is that she's a prosecutor and Trump is a convicted felon.
Did she ever refer to Donald Trump as the defendant?
No.
I thought I might have missed that one. I thought she did at some point.
That would have been good.
Convict would be appropriate too.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think, just referring to the moderators as Your Honor and then referring to Trump as the defendant.
That would be amazing.
Well,
I want to see it.
His sentencing would still be very interesting, because if he did get elected and was then sentenced to prison, how would they deal with that? Or just sentence him to house arrest that he can't leave the White House?
I'm sorry, I'm just chuckling at the idea that Trump seems to have this kind of weird way of speaking, that the only way he can get a concise sentence is to be given one.
See, you're assuming he can read.
Hey, I also want to point out, going back to an earlier topic, I know it's late, but JD Vance looks like someone who would be playing a banjo in the backwoods of Georgia.
Yeah. Well, as far as what you were saying, that the only way Trump could say a sentence is if somebody gave it to him, maybe that's what the shooting attempt was actually about, that they actually were aiming for the teleprompter, just so Trump didn't have any help while he was on stage.
The idea and argument that people are offering that it was staged seems to be gaining steam.
It was just a random, what's the word I'm looking for? It was someone who had some form of mental illness that.
Yeah, I'm surprised we have not heard more follow-up on that.
Well, I cannot imagine a scenario where there's an attempt on a major political figure's life, and there to not be a major investigation afterwards, hearings, commissions, all this kind of stuff. And why hasn't there been with this?
Well, that's what I mean. That I really haven't heard any follow-up beyond 2 weeks after.
Well, I mean, there isn't that much to look into. The shooter is dead. They know who it was. They found the gun. All the questions are answered. What's there to look into?
And he was a conservative.
There's just the fact that there is no investigation is something worth looking into.
I think
I'm not. I want to preface by saying I'm not trying to push the idea that it was staged, but I'm talking about the people who do feel that way. I think there's enough questions about it that I think it's okay that people are asking that question. I don't necessarily agree with it because I haven't seen any evidence either way. But
Well, I mean, they're still asking questions about the Kennedy shooting.
Well, yeah, but that actually was, a mysterious event. We got a shooter, but we never found out for sure it was the shooter, and so on and so forth. But I think they have a vested interest in not investigating it and not making a bigger deal because, as it stands, he gets to claim partial martyr status. And if they keep it in the public consciousness, then people are going to be like, huh, maybe we do have a fucking gun problem.
Nobody can heal from an ear injury like that. Even just a skimming of a bullet, there would be a scab, there would be something. And the pictures of his ear the next day are spotless. It is not physically possible.
No, I'm pretty sure the pictures of his ear next day show like a large cotton ball over it.
Oh, okay. Next day after that, he only wore that for one day.
Yeah. Well, and it seemed weird to me that just seemed to be kind of hanging there. It's like the bottom didn't even seem taped down.
I just want to point out one thing. There probably is an investigation about it. It's just not public.
Yeah.
Hey, it's been a lot of fun, but I need to get going.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming in. We,
Nice to see you
especially
again.
when it comes to legal things, we're always interested in your input.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate
It's
it.
good to finally actually catch you, Granny.
Yeah, you too, Amber.
Good night. Good night, Kelly.
Good night.
Have a good night.
The one thing about this shooting that I must say I have not heard anybody else say, and I know it's my own potentially warped thoughts that produce it. I would not put it past the Republican Party or the Trump grouping of the Republican Party to hire a kid like that to take a shot and nail somebody in the audience. And that the whole thing about the wound was indeed staged with fake blood and that sort of thing. I do not think that they would consider losing one citizen as any sort of a loss. I think they're that cold-hearted.
Well, I can see that about, like you say, just shooting a random member of the audience, and even about, shooting the teleprompter so it looked like a near miss. I do think that he had some slight injury to his ear just from the glass from the teleprompter shattering. I don't think the bullet ever hit him.
The teleprompter wasn't hit.
It wasn't?
No.
Okay.
I thought I saw a picture of it with a chip out of one of the corners.
No, that wasn't a chip. It was just a reflection.
Okay.
Okay.
I had thought that there had been some shattered pieces off the teleprompter.
My summation is that there's enough questions, even if it's all conspiratorial at this point, that bear looking into and having some questions answered.
Yeah.
I mean, people are even looking into is Earth really flat?
Yeah.
Not sensible people, but it's.
The other thing I've questioned that there were already some pretty powerful Republicans who were feeling that Trump was dragging them down. So I wouldn't have put it past them to, hire someone to take him out.
The other oligarchs are out to get him.
Well, he's not malleable.
Well, from what we know of the person who did the shooting, his search history, it seems he was just looking to shoot anybody, and Trump just happened to be in town.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is some conspiracy theories are plausible, but they're still not supported.
Yeah, that there's no evidence. But Orla has a good point here. You have to be careful what you qualify as mental health issues.
In this case, I just couldn't remember because there was some sort of diagnosis. I just don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Orla, I completely agree with the concept that I could be very diagnosable.
I think that was actually meant for my comment.
Oh, well, okay. Then I'm not and you are.
Yep. I can't reach my hat from here. Should I get up and get it?
Yes, you should.
I don't have any hats. I mean, I got a stocking hat for winter.
Okay. But I'm going to take a moment for a bio break then, and I'll be right back with my hat.
Another thing that's been going on that is of great interest in the last couple of days, not yesterday, day before, news broke that The nation of Iran has hacked into the Trump campaign computers and has been able to release a large number of emails from the campaign and a supposed 270-page document that talks about nothing else other than J.D. Vance's shortcomings.
Yeah.
They are supposedly have gone to a particular individual from the Iranians, and that person then forwarded them to Political, which some say is a very conservative media news service.
Could you mention if it was Donald Trump's shortcomings, it would be bigger than War and Peace?
Indeed. It'd make the Oxford Dictionary look tiny.
Oh my. It's the only thing he can make look tiny.
Well, he didn't make that thing look tiny. It grew that way.
They're normal-sized hands, folks. Completely average, typical hand. No, they're the biggest hands. You gotta believe me.
See,
nobody has bigger hands.
His hands are perfectly matched to his, thing.
Yeah, I've heard that's a thing with guys. It's like, big hands, big feet in the biblical sense. And so if you have tiny hands and tiny feet where you have to like scooch down a ramp, that's yeah.
See, that's not valid. I have big hands and I have big feet, and I was pretty much non-existent down there.
Yeah, that's not true. With the hands feet thing.
I was going to say, were you in the operating room?
I heard there was an even more specific.
That's right, Dave.
Go by.
All hail big feet.
Was actually the length from the wrist to the top of the longest finger.
Oh my God.
That's
fucking 8.5 inches or so on me.
Yeah, I didn't say it was a reliable rule. That's something I heard.
I'm going to tell you a joke a shop teacher told me, where a student comes up to have her project checked, and she's like, the teacher looks at it, it's like, this is supposed to be 6 inches. That's not 6 inches. To which the confused student's response, that's not what my boyfriend told me.
Yeah.
It's true. Men have no idea how long 6 inches is.
Yeah, and a lot of men, they brag about how big they are and what is their girth and all this stuff. And you talk to a lot of women and they say, no, you don't want one all that big. You just don't. It bottoms out, It's
I'm glad I'm an asexual. I mean, I don't know.
It does make life easier.
When I was a teenager, I went to a fancy dress party. I just stuck it in my ear and went as a petrol pump. A gas pump,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, that was a really bad joke.
Oh, let's see. The average dick size is about 5 inches, I believe.
Okay, we don't need to know.
Of course, Mish looked it up.
We really just don't need to know this.
Isn't 6.5 the typical? What did you find, Mage?
5 inches is the average.
Is that
it varies from country to
flaccid
country.
or erect?
Erect.
It's amazing how big that damn thing can grow.
Right down to Literalville.
What organ of the human body would I talking about when I talk about something that can increase its size by 4 or 5 times? And
the ego.
Stomach.
The iris.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right. That was much too small for the ego.
Well, we were also talking about ticks being able to do that, to inflate their entire body to 4 times its original size.
Well, their abdomen anyway.
Yeah.
Just hope Trump loses because I don't need to worry. Don't want to, because I think it'll. Well, I'm kind of hoping it'll just show people it's like this agenda has been rejected twice now.
Yeah.
Well, if you're worried about what Trump is going to do, just say that you support him. I'm saying he'll deport you.
Here's the question.
Well,
How can you
Go
deport a natural-born citizen who this is their only country?
I have no idea, but apparently he wants to do that.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry that Trump supporters will pass legislation that may just say you can't hold your job anymore. I do.
So here's the thing: if Trump loses, we won't be talking about this president's dick size anymore.
Well, if Trump
Well, some people
loses,
will.
Depends on what he gets arrested for next.
if
No, I mean
Trump
the
loses,
president's.
no, but on what Sinister Porpoise was saying, that if Trump loses, the Democrats are trying to pass an amendment that one of the things that would disqualify you from being president would be a felony conviction. So they would prevent Trump from ever running again.
Well, we
I
all
mean-
kind of thought that the 14th Amendment took care of that, but apparently not.
Well, the 14th Amendment was specifically designed for the Civil War, and I don't disagree with that reasoning, but
Isn't that about treason?
I mean, we could pass that law now. We don't have to wait until the election's over.
well, we couldn't pass that law now because we have two mega morons who are very vocal in Congress. Three. At least three.
Which ones are those? There's so many to choose from.
I'm talking about-
Jim Bag Jordan is one, I think.
I'm talking about the big three. Matt,
Okay.
I date people from my high school. Gates.
Reapy McForehead, his nickname.
Marjorie Jewish Space Lasers Green. And Lauren Beetlejuice Theater Incident Bobert.
Well, you were talking about J.D. Vance when I got up, and yeah, it's interesting that the VP picks, Vance has definitely pulled Trump down a bit, and Walsh has definitely given Harris a few extra.
Listen, you native Midwesterners just like Walls because he has a cheesy tater tots recipe.
Isn't he an amazing person?
Well,
He is pretty cool.
and two of the states that consider still in play are Wisconsin and Michigan.
So is he an amazing person just because he's amazing or because he has a cheesy tater tots recipe?
Everybody in
Why
Minnesota
not
has
both?
a cheesy tater tots recipe. It's called hot dish. I have two at least. No, three.
I was going to say Jenny knows about hot dishes.
Pennsylvania Dutch food is still better.
I may be true, but it certainly wouldn't sell in Minnesota without tater tots and possibly cheese on top.
I said, you know.
But what about tuna sandwiches?
Yeah, you cannot get an official Minnesota ID without being able to make a tater tot hot dish. It's part of the exam to get the ID.
The hospital I used to work at decades and 50 years ago had a spectacular cafeteria, but one of the things that they made was tater tot casserole, which was tater tot hot dish, and it was just so fucking good. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, apparently the school I work for has really good tater tots. I tried them; they are not that good. I don't know if I got bad ones that day, but everyone seems to like them. Like, these are not good.
Pennsylvania just can't cope with them very well.
I'm fine with tater tots. Those tater tots were just not good.
Back to the Trump
Oh,
thing.
hold on.
So-
One thing I need to say first. If you think Pennsylvania Dutch people can't deal with potatoes, you have never eaten Pennsylvania Dutch food.
I remember in high school we used to get moldy food from time to time.
Ew. Well, it's Florida. They can't help that, I guess.
Laura
Free
was trying to say
antibiotics.
something.
Yeah, but they also would give it to the developmental kids who are
Oh,
very
jeez.
sensitive to anything.
Yeah, Laura was trying to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say about Trump. So let's assume he loses, and so it's like I'm fed up of doing this now because I'm old and so, or possibly in jail. So What's the Republican Party gonna do? Are they gonna continue on this sort of MAGA thing? Is this they're just stuck with this, whether Trump's around or not, or will the lack of Trump's light, shall we say,
Well,
stop it from?
It's gonna be like Reagan.
yeah,
Sorry?
It's gonna be like Reagan.
The problem is Trump. People have tried to run on Trump's policies. They don't win. DeSantis tried it. Someone else tried it, and I can't remember their name.
Ramaswamy? Mini Trump?
Although DeSantis had a very high creep factor to begin with.
And Trump has a cult of personality. That's why he has the support he does.
My theory is that the personality thing is very correct, and it's why he has such a huge mega following. I think it has a lot to do with intelligence and perceived intelligence. That people like him because they can relate to him because of his fourth grade speaking style.
Not to mention Trump,
and he's a bigot, just like they are. You know.
Yeah,
But
the Republican Party itself, I don't think are megas as much as they are Christian nationalist proponents, and they see that influence as the major direction for their party, and that and that's all it is now.
I suppose
and the bulwark types and the Lincoln Project types and the Never Trumper types are going to, the people, the Liz Cheneys of the world, all those guys, they're going to do something. There's going to be a center right party. Maybe that's the Democratic Party. Which I would say the Democratic Party really is more of a certainly more of a center-right party than it ever was in its history. But it's the ones that don't even fit that bill, like the bulwark types and all those folks. They're going to want to have some place to land that's outside of the Democratic Big Tent. And I think that the Republicans are about where the Whigs were before the Civil War, when the Whig Party split over the issue of slavery. And I think that the Republican Party is going to split over the issue of Christian nationalism and bigotry and whites only. Stuff.
There's a problem.
I don't know.
There's a problem the Democratic Party is going to have too, because Generation X, like my age and younger, are not moving right as they get older.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting the opportunities their parents did. If the Democrat Party doesn't move further left, something is going to have to come in to fill that void.
I'm hoping that Walsh will start to. I'm hoping that Walsh will help to pull the Democratic Party more to the left, and move the Overton window a little.
I mean, the baby boomers are still newer. Sorry, go ahead.
And I think you're right, Porpoise. I think that both parties have a problem, because there needs to be a more let's bring up the issue of the Middle East. That's one place where justice and world peace and socialist ideals and all of that stuff. It's not getting an expression in our politics yet, and it's going to have an expression going forward. It's going to be interesting to see how President Harris and Vice President Walz reckon with that going forward on a whole host of issues.
Well, one interesting poll result that came out of Washington is that atheists are not the most hated group. They fell behind Republicans.
Really?
Yes, Republicans are more hated in Washington than atheists are.
Oh, that's lovely. Yay. Thank you, God.
Goodness. Praise Jeebus.
So it's one indication that, some people have felt that the Bible thumpers have gone too far.
Well, the demographics are shifting too. Most, like the nuns, NONES, just for people who are confused, are like a quarter of the population now. And a lot of like the people I see, some of them are, I mean, you're always going to have religious people, just like you're always going to have like some conservatives, but a lot of them just not that big into religion. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe they'll go to church because for social reasons, or because their parents make them is the biggest one with the people I deal with mostly. But
Well, I think what you said about them not having the opportunities is a big thing. That, the realization that many of them will never be able to own their own home and will have to rent all their life. That's been something that's really been at the forefront a lot lately.
My concern is the large number of people in their 20s, and some in the 30s, but mostly in the 20s and late teens, believe that communism is this save all situation. They of course did not grow up with communism as a world feature and the oppression and horrendous situation that it would create. But they seem to be. I don't want to say deluded enough, because that's a very hostile thing to say. But they seem to be feeling strong enough in that conviction that they don't even want to look at the possibility, or actually I shouldn't say possibility, the natural order of human behavior to have a communist structure advance into a totalitarian, authoritarian situation. It can't be helped, and it will end up just like Russia used to be. Okay, that's the nature of not the party, not the philosophy, but of the people. And there's always going to be somebody who wants to be on top, and certain political structures lend themselves to that much more than others. For me, social democracy is the only intelligent way to go, because it's addressing not national management as much as it is political attitude and goals of equality and egalitarianism and things like that. But these kids, I'm comforted by two things. A, I'm not going to be around much longer, and two, that they don't seem to be enough kids that are praising communism to make a critical mass.
first, couple.
I'm done.
Okay, couple things. Not that I disagree, but thank you for putting your butt in my face, Athena.
Yay!
I'm glad you're sharing, but humans don't feel the same way about that. The kitties do. One, I think a lot of people are told there are only two economic systems, which is not true, and it's communism and capitalism.
Yeah.
So if capitalism is failing, which it is, they're going to think, oh yeah, communism is the solution. It's like, because they don't know there are other ways. They may also not have read Adam Smith to realize it's like, hey, a lot of the criticisms that Marx brings up in the Communist Manifesto are actually taken straight from The Wealth of Nations, where Adam Smith is...
Absolutely, you go. Absolutely, it's really funny how that's the case.
And secondly, we have a not insignificant people in the ruling class who don't want people to be educated.
Yeah.
Fun fact for you: the Marx came up with Marx and Engels met and came up with their Communist Manifesto in Manchester.
Yeah.
Which is 5 miles away from where I live.
Well, and unfortunately, one of the promises Trump made that he would be able to do if he's elected would be to eliminate the Department of Education. So there would be no federal standards for schools.
It makes sense. I mean, he is uneducated himself. So,
Yeah. Well, with what Porpoise was just saying about that, they prefer a population that's poorly educated.
yes.
Well, it's easier to control. I've read the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that point of it, but I've read it.
I remember reading the Texas Republican platform saying that they were against critical thinking because that can make people not think that God doesn't exist or something.
Well, and Leo Frankowski said that democracy only works with a well-educated populace.
But yeah, it's like if people get more educated, they don't necessarily vote Republican for some reason.
Yeah.
Almost as if reality has, what's that phrase, a well-known liberal bias.
Education, that is, you mean?
No, reality has a well-known liberal bias.
And what Orl is saying, the most successful countries are those that blend capitalism and socialism. And usually about every 10 years or so, we end up having a massive economic crash.
As of
and that's socialism that fixes it.
As of 2019, 30% of Gen Z found favorable opinion of Marxism.
Well, I don't think most of them could define Marxism.
The highest favorability was still capitalism at 52% as of 2020.
See, the interesting thing about that is I remember studying that at school, at college, sorry, and there is a thing that if you look at mass movements, so if you look at like Iran, the people trying to change things were people out of colleges and universities because they're young and they see sort of bigger picture kind of ideas. And they think, oh, that could work. And then what happens is you sort of get a little bit older and you get a job and all those things. And the realism of, okay, it's a nice idea, but not necessarily practical, kind of sets in.
Yeah, but the countries
it's not surprising that, the Gen Z are sort of like looking at that and thinking, oh, that sounds a nice idea.
I don't think it's that many of them. It's like most of them aren't even that political.
Also,
maybe the college students, but most of the ones I deal with aren't that politically involved yet.
Also, when Gen Z, 49% said socialism was favorable. So
socialism and communism aren't the same thing.
Yeah, well, the thing I'm looking at here has them separate things. So, but I think another factor in this is that this is the Gen Z is the first generation to see themselves worse off than the previous generation.
Yeah. Well, and the countries that rank as having the most stable economies and rank as ones where the average civilian says they are happy, all wind up being mostly like the Scandinavian countries, and that the countries that, like Orla says, that they've got a system that's a mix of socialism and capitalism.
People do not realize how socialist America already is. Our highway system, our educational system, police, no matter how good or bad you think they are, is socialism. Fire departments are socialism. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We have all these socialist programs that people would not want to give up, but they also don't want to recognize that there's socialism.
This is true.
I mean, hell, the
thing like Popeye said a little while. It's like Popeye said a few minutes ago that most Americans can't tell the difference between socialism and communism. Bernie Sanders said he's a socialist, not the same as being a communist.
Yeah.
Well, there's Americans who will say that you're a fascist communist and not have any idea what they just said. You can't be opposing ends of a spectrum.
Well,
sorry.
And I think that's one of the things that's coming out. I think that Gen Z, not all of them across the board, but a good number of them are recognizing the difference between socialism and communism, and seeing that socialism on a certain scale could be practical.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's only one thing that ties socialism and communism together, and that's uniforms.
Well, communism
Whenever
is
you've
an
had
extreme form of socialism.
whenever you've had those kind of states, they've always had these kind of strong uniform imagery that goes on.
Yeah. What were you saying, Porpoise?
Communism is an extreme form of socialism.
Yeah, and
I would go with that, sure.
I think that's the problem, that any system pushed to the extreme is going to fail.
Well,
Another
any
thing that
system run by
Americans forget
humans.
is that capitalism in government, is how we have it structured, is just as much of an experiment as socialism or capitalism is, because they're all modern inventions of politics and economic structure.
I don't know why I remembered like a game, role-playing game I played at some point. One of those lurkers. But it was called Vampire the Requiem, and they had a group called the Carthians, which were a group of vampires that went around like experimenting, setting up governments just to see what would happen.
Here's a question for you, bigger picture type territory. So, do you think that the US will ever redo the Constitution? Because at the moment you're kind of tied to this Constitution, like, you know, you've got Supreme Court. Well, what did the people who are at the Constitution think of this? And it's like, well, you know, we would have no expectation of your founding fathers to sort of think about stem cell research and, you know, lots of other things, computers, you know, all these sort of things that exist now, and many things have changed. But you're stuck with a constitution that hasn't changed, and it's chained you to 1776.
We have a process for changing the Constitution.
If the founding fathers did not want the Constitution to be able to change, they would not have put a system that Sinister is speaking about, the amendment system.
Yeah, the Constitution has been changed 27 times.
Yeah,
and there's another way to do it. If
Well,
the three quarters of the states say we want to have a constitutional convention,
and that's the
then
danger.
that can happen, and that is very dangerous, because as it stands right now, what do we got? 28 states that have laws against my being alive.
Yeah,
you know, got a problem with that.
Exactly.
And Indiana's only 5 of them.
Well, also, if we were starting to look at a constitutional convention, you might see something like Texas has a provision in their constitution that they could divide up into being as much as 5 separate states if their population merits it.
Mm-hmm.
And could you imagine if there was a constitutional convention, how badly Grindr would get jammed with
That's true. I mean, but on the other hand, you know, you got to look on the bright side. That's an awful lot of work for sex workers. Good.
Well, yeah.
Well, not so much the straight sex workers.
Do you know what? Here's a fun little question. Let's say you made Puerto Rico the 51st state. How much do you think it would cost to change all the sort of database systems? Well, not database systems, but you know when you go to get something delivered, you know, and it's like, okay, now we've got another state, so we've now got to add, you know, Puerto Rico after Philadelphia.
Well, how much would it cost just to get new federal flags in all the offices?
Yeah.
Philadelphia is not a state.
Sorry, Philadelphia. Pennsylvania is what I meant.
The state of Florida spent over $60,000 just to change the "Welcome to Florida" signs to put DeSantis's name on them.
Well, changing just the drop-down box would just be however much you're paying the programmers to change like a single line of code and not all of it.
Yeah, and for postal organization, all they have to do is change the first 2 numbers of a zip code.
That thing you said about
Puerto Rico already has a zip code and an area code, and Puerto Rico's pretty well integrated into the United States. Because
I don't think.
Nobody knows in America Puerto Rico's in America, to quote West Side Story, and that was in 1957.
Not really. I mean, it's surrounded by water, big water.
Yes,
Oh,
and that's
ocean
why,
water.
What do you want? You know.
and that's why it was so hard for Trump to get hurricane help to it, as if the U.S. doesn't have the largest navy in the world.
Well, what he
Yeah.
learned is that if he drops the nuke, that it would take out a whole bunch of valuable infrastructure that he might be able to own sometime. That's why he didn't do that.
I'm sorry, the U.S. has the 5th largest navy in the world.
Do we?
Yeah, but we're the one that actually has the most usable ocean-going boats.
Right.
Yeah, because China has a lot of like boats that aren't seaworthy.
And that's one of the major things that American people, voters, don't even think about or really understand is China.
I also think
China. Was that a good Trump way? China.
I also think
whatever China's doing, they can sit back and relax because they're only looking at the long run. You know, they've been China for 5,000 years.
I also think
they're not
the U.S.
concerned about us.
I also think the U.S. has the 5th and 6th largest navy in the world as well.
But you're counting the Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard and the Army.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, China has been having some problems that they were supposed to be, premiering their new super carrier, and it seems to run into technical difficulties every time they're trying to run test trials with it.
Well, they can't buy carriers from Russia because Russia doesn't have any.
It does. It has one, and it's
Yep.
rubbish. Oh, and it stole it from Ukraine.
Russia's
about the
ongoing
Navy.
problem has always been a warm water port.
Hold on, I think Stephanie has something relevant to add that's more important than anything we were saying.
Well, since you're talking about the Navy, I just wanted to say somebody asked earlier when a customer walked in, so I couldn't be attentive to y'all. But yes, the red spinnaker right there is that's the boat I was sailing on in that regatta, and here's another view of it. All right, and here's another view of it. And that's me in the cockpit.
Yep.
That was the end result of a very large gust. As you can see, it's blowing pretty hard right there.
Yeah, you're almost rolling over there.
Is everyone harnessed?
Oh no, everybody's wearing a personal flotation device,
but not harnessed to the boat.
Nope.
If the boat capsizes, probably best not to be attached to it.
Yeah,
indeed.
There's a lot of quick releases you can get. A race car's quick release does 6 bells instantly. That's not a big deal.
But no one was harmed badly. Erica, who was in the water there, got hit by the boom. That jibe and hit in the head, and she couldn't sail the next day.
Oh, I didn't notice the guy in the water.
That's Erica. She was our foredeck.
So
she missed the jibe, and as a result, we capsized damn near anyway.
How many women are on the crew?
Me and Erica and Charlotte, I think.
3 out of 5? Wow.
I think Charlotte was sailing with us.
What did you say the guy in the water's job was?
That's Erica. She is our foredeck, or was our foredeck.
At that moment, hanging on.
Yeah, because when you said you made a reference to her in past tense, and it's like, I hope she survived.
Oh, she survived. Yes, as a matter of fact, she is the skipper of the Sailbags women's sailing team in the class. She's got her own boat.
I think the last major maritime disaster in the U.S. occurred in 2015 with the El Faro.
What about that one that capsized? That took down the bridge.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
That's pretty.
The one that actually resulted in death was the El Faro.
Yeah.
Well, what's that happened can involve death. The people who are working on the bridge.
Well, the boat that took down the bridge, though, was a privately owned commercial boat.
I meant the last U.S. flagged vessel was the El Faro.
Okay.
Sorry, I forgot all about the Dolly.
Anyway, going down that little tangent. I just wanted to answer the question.
Yep.
And that's the boat. That was from, golly,
And that's why
2000.
cats don't like sailboats.
That this regatta was 2016, I think, as I recall, something like that,
I think there was once a
or
requirement.
maybe 2014. I think it was 2014. I think that was 10 years ago.
I think a lot of navies had requirements that they had to have cats on ships.
Yeah. Well,
But not bananas. You can't have bananas on ships, on
What?
sailboats. No bananas.
Why?
Yeah,
It's
that's a
just-
weird
is that about
superstition.
slipping on a banana peel?
No, it's about tarantulas. It's about banana boats. It's about spiders.
Oh, it's about slipping.
Because the spider,
It's about
because the
slipping on a
spiders,
tarantula.
the spiders get into the bananas.
Yep.
Do you know what? There was a TV, a sitcom based in a supermarket. This is like in the early 90s. And in one episode, there's a story about there's like a scare in the supermarket because they find a spider in with the bananas, and it's like, oh, a big scary thing, and it turns out to be one of the workers there who has heavy makeup and one of her eyelashes had fallen off.
I put something in chat if anyone wants to share it.
That's a big link.
It's just a picture, though.
Yeah. Well, I can remember at least 2 horror movies that
Aw.
were. Okay, Nate got to it first.
Somebody share that. Oh no.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right.
I can remember at least 2 horror movies that were based on the premise of some dangerous spiders from South America coming over in shipments of fruit.
Arachnophobia.
Oh gosh.
No,
Okay.
actually, that wasn't one of them. I was thinking about some older ones. I don't remember the titles of them.
This book is full of spiders. I guess the movie version was this movie is full of spiders.
I've got a funny story for you. It needs a bit of background, but it's kind of funny. So there's this guy called Ran Campbell, and he's just a con artist. Anyway, before I found you lot in the Great Debate stuff, before McRae and all that kind of stuff, this guy, he kind of referred himself as God's bouncer. That he was personally grab you by the neck and throw you to hell, and it was just laughable. And there was, like he was once asked, oh gosh, I've forgotten what it's called now. Is it Matthew 4:19? It's the "So God loved the world, He gave His only Son" one. It's the thing you see on football games and stuff. Anyway, so he once made this claim that he went to Africa and was like embedded with an African tribe, and the initiation was to be eaten by a python, and he punched his way out of it. And it's like, but pythons don't. Or was it anaconda? Anyway, pythons don't come from Africa; they come from South America. Oh well, it was imported from the zoo. He just enjoyed the sort of moving of the goalpost to fit, the lie. I'm sorry, it was funny at the time.
I just want to step back in time for a moment here. I didn't get a chance to offer what I wanted. Orla, I see your comment about blend of both capitalism and socialism as the most salient comment in this discussion. I think that's very on point.
What we're headed for is a form of corporate feudalism.
Yeah, well, what I think would work, what I'd like to see, is that corporations become socialist entities that are owned by the workers, but then the corporations would still compete against each other in a capitalist economy.
I would like to see a law that says corporations do not have the same rights as an individual person.
Well, yeah, that was a no-brainer, but it got passed through a Supreme Court that had no brains.
Well, no, corporations have always been fictitious persons because it gives them the rights to own property, be sued, and in theory, lets them be held accountable for certain things.
Except the Supreme Court said last century that a corporation is equal to a human.
Yeah.
But corporations cannot exercise freedom of religion because they can't go to a church.
No,
But
they
they can
actually
be a
could
church.
because church is not the only way to express religion.
Yeah.
There's no individual mind to hold these ideas.
The court says different. What the corporation can't do that the human can do is you can't put a corporation in jail.
Fun fact:
It
a
would be
church is
nice.
a corporation usually.
Yeah, we just need to say it's like, hey, certain rights require an actual physical presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can put the owner of the corporation in jail. So back to Trump.
No, most corporations, or at least major corporations, which are the people that we're most concerned about, are owned by thousands upon thousands of shareholders. You can't put them all in jail.
Oh, I was making the joke that Trump is a business owner that's going to be going to jail for, maybe, possibly.
I do wish that they could actually hold the CEO responsible personally for a lot of things made, because either he made the decisions, or if he was unaware of the decisions, he was derelict of his duties.
Yeah, we definitely need to start putting CEOs in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's start with Elon Musk.
If that first.
Elon Musk should have his citizenship revoked.
Can we just make it a felony to be a billionaire?
Can we just make it a felony to be Elon Musk?
Why not both?
Elon Musk is showing the world at how much he is nothing near a genius. Everybody has given him that label, and he is in no way a genius, not even close.
Did you see the bullshit he tweeted at Taylor Swift after she endorsed?
Yes.
Harris?
Well, and that's something we haven't mentioned yet, was Taylor Swift coming out and endorsing Harris.
Actually,
I love those words. Taylor Swift coming out. Boy,
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting
that
for
on himself.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift to match her top concert prices to the stock price of Twitter, and after every concert she buys Twitter stock.
Yeah.
That encourages her followers to do so.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm thinking Taylor Swift's endorsement may have a greater effect on the election than the debate did.
There was a rumor circulating the last couple of days that before Taylor said what she said, that people were thinking that she was going to make her endorsement during her Florida Eras Tour concert, which was like mid October, third week of October, something like that, for maximum impact. But I'm glad she did it now, so people have time to register.
Well, I'm actually thinking she probably wasn't going to do a public endorsement until Trump pulled that stunt with the AI poster of her endorsing him.
Yeah, but that was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. But, she's functioning as a corporation too, so she's got marketing and that are worried about, how is this going to affect your image and concert sales and so forth. So it takes a while to plan.
As a Swiftie, I've seen a lot of the background videos that are in her community. There's this lovely little video of her having a meeting with her advisors like that, and her parents even, because it is very much a family thing going on. Where somebody says that to her, he says, "Look, you have to take a look at how people are going to react and blah blah blah," and she says, "I really don't give a fuck. I have to say what I have to say."
Okay, Sadly, my plan to have Swifties take over Twitter will not work because Musk switched Twitter from a publicly traded company to a privately traded company.
How does a
Oh.
privately traded
Sorry, a
company
private
work?
company. It means you can't buy the stock anymore.
Yeah.
So you can't buy Twitter for much less than Musk paid for it, cementing his loss.
Love it.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be its current value because it's still on the stock? It's still on the stock market.
No, it's not.
It's not. How come I see reports every day?
Twitter
it's
shares
down
with
to
one trade
16
under
right
the
now.
ticker TWTR went off the NYSE on November 8th, 2022.
Well, then somebody's following it somehow because there's every given day you see somebody posting how much he's lost today.
Well, that's the value of the company, not necessarily the value of the stock, because Twitter was never making money.
It's talking about stock prices.
Yeah, Twitter. No, it isn't. It's the value of the company. Now, I don't know if they're still based on shares, but you can't sell them.
I think I saw it was down to 1677, or was that a different
The point
stock I was
is,
thinking of?
I would be highly amused if like Taylor Swift got like every like Swiftie to buy a share of stock,
Mm-hmm.
and she could take over Twitter.
But that would have been fun.
I don't know what she'd do with
Possibly
it. but-
thinking of Truth Social.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, maybe that's the
I
stock
think you're
price I'm
thinking
thinking
of
of.
Truth
The
Social.
1677, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Twitter's going. Twitter is going to go the way of Gab. It's going to become the online meeting place for neo-Nazis.
Everything on that man touches tanks. It's just incredible that
Well, the
people support
question
him.
is going to be, where do all the people who use Twitter go?
Well, none of the places that are suggested as one, I don't trust Threads because that's
That's Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
That's Zuckerberg. Blue Sky is Dorsey, but the features aren't there yet.
Yeah.
Mastodon is weird.
It
Well,
exists.
I think the weakness of Mastodon's decentralized model had been exposed.
Well, even if it didn't have a decentralized model, which is actually a strength as well, Mastodon doesn't have features like private messaging yet, and so now if I could,
Blue Sky does have private DMs.
but not
group
Blue
DMs.
Sky yet.
Right.
But not groups.
Because I think most of us are like, as soon as it offers that feature, we're saying bye, Musk.
Yeah, we're only on Twitter because we can have our private groups there.
I hear most dissenters I have contact with saying that they'll stick with the twit until after the election because it's our really only mass channel for communication.
I'll stick with the Twitter until we can migrate our groups to another thing.
Well, there's also YouTube and TikTok. But...
Well, there's also Gabber, which certain people
cool.
in the community have been pushing, and I don't know. I've only logged into it like twice, so I don't really have an opinion on how functional it is or anything like that.
TikTok is much worse than Twitter.
Yeah, TikTok's more of a video platform.
It's also more of a right-wing platform.
Yeah.
They regulate what words you can and cannot say.
Well, so
you cannot say sex, you cannot say penis, you cannot say rape. There is just and some really just stupid, insipid little rules that they have that aren't published, but you can get suspended for them.
Well, YouTube, it's not much different on YouTube, where just certain things will not get you monetized or will get you demonetized.
Yeah, they need to be required to publish their community standards if they're going to enforce them that way.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens when TikTok is forced to sell off its U.S. holdings.
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly was a stupid thing. It's like...
Yeah.
It's like, if you're going to do this, it's like, there's more than TikTok that needs regulation.
Yeah, they shouldn't have targeted at just TikTok. They should have done the same thing to Facebook and other platforms.
I think it's 62% of TikTok is owned by American sources.
Also, TikTok is generally catering towards a younger audience.
Yeah.
I would disagree. I mean, first of all, they do not want people, children on there for the most part. They do have age rules and stuff. We have to ask somebody how old they are before anybody is allowed to be on a live. And they have to be over 18, and some people individually choose to enforce the 21.
Yeah, but TikTok is more popular with teens, especially since a lot of them don't own their own desktops yet. But they do have phones.
Well, they were able to pass the stuff on TikTok mostly because they were able to make people afraid of the Chinese government being involved in it.
I'm not saying that isn't a valid thing to do. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying that's why it was easy for them to pass that one targeted one that didn't apply to American companies.
TikTok is extremely powerful, and that's why they wanted to regulate it, because people anytime people are able to talk back and forth nationally, internationally, politicians are nervous.
Google,
I've said this for years, that, the whole sort of Big Brother thing and then the government are watching you territory, that's the opposite way around now. Because if you watch TV, give me a sec. If you watch TV, let's say Trump last night, just use that as an example, okay? If it wasn't so easy to fact check him because he just comes out with crazy outlandish stuff. But let's say he said something about something that happened 10 years ago. Okay, now before the internet and Twitter and so on was such a thing, if someone had said that, if a politician had lied about something, it would be reliant on someone going in the basement and grabbing an old newspaper from 20 years ago about the time it happened and saying, and then making it available to the press to say, no, you lied about that. Here's where it says it. Whereas today, you can go down to that basement in seconds and take a photo of it with your camera and post it. And within 20 minutes, it's gone viral. And next thing you know, it resigns.
The thing is, just do a screen dump.
We still have Big Brother, but Big Brother isn't the government. Big Brother is Google.
Yeah.
I think Big Brother is also the people as well.
I haven't heard of Google censoring or taking away from people's ability to do and say things that they want.
Well, Google owns YouTube, so the limitations they put on that.
Well, okay. Yeah. All right.
I mean, Google has a lot of Google doesn't have governmental power, but Google has a lot of power as to what people can get on the internet.
Google
they can demonetize your YouTube. They can just not promote a website, and most searches still go through Google.
Yeah, Google will censor searches. I've actually found if I search something in Google and I'll search it in other search engines, I can pull it up in other search engines, but not Google.
Lots of other search engines use Google.
Yes, they do. Not to mention, there's another issue that I don't even think Google intended this. It just happened, where it's causing decreased competition for online shopping. Because if we want to look for something, what are the two sites we're most likely to go to?
Yeah, Amazon and eBay.
Amazon or eBay. And if someone wants to come up and compete with them, they have to overcome Amazon and eBay's search engine optimization.
You certainly can't get everything, but I will always look at Etsy first if it's something that doesn't require a corporation to produce.
Well, Etsy is more for crafts, but I'm just saying, if you need to,
no, you can buy cameras, you can buy electronics, you can buy all kinds of things on Etsy.
Etsy is more for crafters, because that's generally what Etsy is trying to do.
That's what it was originally made for, but they've had to expand just to stay alive.
But yeah, it's going to be, and it also going to Amazon has killed local businesses.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
As much as I love Amazon, sorry, go ahead.
But with all the discussion of Twitter, why not take a look at my Twitter feed? Caitlin Burns tweets, "Last note on the debate. I haven't seen a castration that clean since my bottom surgery."
Well, on the question of Google censoring, just censorship in general, how is it functioning now that certain states have, outlawed internet porn? How can they actually prevent people in those states from accessing it?
They
IP
can't.
addresses.
They
Yeah,
can
that-
make it harder.
Well, it just seemed to me that it's a law that's unenforceable.
Well, every law is going to be skirted at some point. You're going to have to accept that. And a lot of cybersecurity isn't about making your computer totally unhackable. It's making it not worth the effort.
What's far more concerning than the censorship, and that's a very bad thing, of course, is Texas is doing it first, but others are wanting to do it or developing to do it, is to track various pockets of the citizenship. Ken Paxton wants to track all pregnant women.
Yeah.
He actually wants to list who they are, where they are at any given time. He's also wanting the same thing for trans people.
I don't think Ken Paxton is going to. I think all right, I need to be very careful the way I phrase this. I think he's killed his political career at this point.
Say again?
He's killed his political career at this point.
Oh no, not at all. He was up on major charges, and the legislature made laws to protect him.
He is never going to get elected for a national office outside of Texas.
I don't know.
He may get appointed to one, but he's not going to be elected.
Whichever, I think he's a very dangerous man and a very ill man, and a very deluded man with his addiction to his religion.
Well, that's a huge threat if Trump gets elected, that he wants to get rid of all of the career federal government employees and replace them with people that they appoint.
Listen, I would love to be able to move certain people to a prison asteroid. Not kill them, just make sure they have food, all the things they need to live out the rest of their lives.
Damn it, we forgot they need oxygen up there.
Listen, okay. No, I don't want to kill them. They'll get oxygen. Just let them live out their lives there. They'll never be in power again, and they'll never affect anything.
Well,
I don't want to kill them. I just want them to have a very painful disease.
Yeah.
I just don't want them to have power.
Well, see, you're not technically killing them if you're just abandoning them in some place that's hostile to their life form.
Like a volcano?
Let's let gravity decide this.
Purple, as much as I understand what you're thinking, I've seen The Wrath of Khan and know how that can backfire.
Yeah.
Ooh, earwigs.
From hell's heart I stab at thee. For hate's sake I spit at thee.
Spit my last breath at thee.
Yeah, someone was I actually saw someone comparing Ricardo Montalban's delivery of those lines with to Gregory Peck's delivery of the same line in Moby Dick.
Oh,
and
God,
Khan did it
he was
much
in that.
better.
Well, we've been going for 2.5 hours here, and I was tired to start with.
So we've only got 2.5 left then, huh?
That's
Well,
right.
I'm thinking that, should we wrap this up here? We've even got a kitty cam going, so that's good.
You're the boss, Perp. Perp. You get to do whatever you want. You know, you're the boss.
Well, I mean, unless somebody has something important they feel that our audience needs to hear before we go.
I have something to say, which is I'm doing a bit rough at the moment because my mum died last week, just over a week ago. And,
Sorry.
I found out about it last Thursday, so...
Sorry to hear that.
Now, sadly, my mum disowned me because I was trans. She said she wanted nothing more to do with me, so that was 5 years ago. Then a couple of months ago, I tried phoning up my dad, but she picked up, and I tried to sort of fix a little bit. I'm sorry we fought was basically, and she told me I'd left it too late. And so from 5 years ago, it was like, I hope she'll come around. It was like a big wide space of hope.
Mhm.
And then after a couple of months ago, it's like a small gap of like, she's probably not going to come around. And now that's gone to, she can't come around.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, she died in her sleep. Apparently, what happened was she was waking up. She was sleeping in late the last couple of years because she had cancer in 2020 and then got the all clear in 2022. Although they did have some of the tumor left behind because that was immaterial, part of the body that was needed still, but it was benign. And so, so she was sleeping late in the morning till like 10 or 11 or something like that. And about 11:30, they heard her go to the toilet. And then when my brother went to check on her a few hours later, she'd gone.
I'm sorry to hear that.
At least she went quietly, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. At least she went quietly and she wasn't like struggling for her last breath.
Yeah. At least you know what happened.
Yeah. But excuse me a second. My upset has kind of gone down. So when I first found out, I was upset, as you can imagine. But since then, I suppose you could say I've gone into a sort of resigned sadness of reality. It's like, she was my mum after all.
Yeah.
So my biggest worry is I've got hang-ups for decades of unresolved shit, and I sort of hold on to these things. I'm just wondering, am I going to be able to let go of this? Because I haven't been able to let go of her disowning me for 5 years.
Laura, I want you to think about it in this light, and I'm being so bold because I have gone through almost precisely what you're talking about. You will never be able to work it out with them, but you need to consider looking at it and saying, I don't care. They were nothing but a negative, and I'm better than all of that, and move on.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think of them as a negative. It wasn't a negative only in this matter.
Yeah. When my father died, I came to the realization that he did what he thought was right at the time for everything. That doesn't excuse some of the things he did, but it gave me a level of understanding him.
Yeah.
Laura, my dad called me Jennifer 2 days before he died, or 3 days before he died, and that's the only time in my life.
Yeah.
I actually need to call my dad, but
And that was literally after I yelled at him for 10 to 15 minutes about his immature treatment of me as a trans woman.
Let Purpose finish.
She made the choice to disown you. You can choose to forgive her, but you have to understand you're forgiving her for you, not for her benefit.
Yeah, I have thought about that. That again, I ultimately I don't think I did anything wrong other than call her out on it. She disowned me because she was making it. I wanted to go and give her a Mother's Day present. She made excuses, and I suggested, well, how about a mail and tea? And she went, well, that's not fair on you. And I said, well, you kind of are being unfair. And that's when she just blurted out and said, you know what? Don't come down. Just consider me dead.
Well, my mother.
And I went down and I confronted her on that, and I told her she doesn't get to choose that I consider her dead. She makes choices for her, not for me. And ultimately, she said she wanted nothing more to do with it. That's
so she pushed you away. She made that choice.
Yeah. And so I don't have the guilt of I pushed her away because, I hope.
Or that you didn't visit her enough lately.
But
I couldn't visit her because she didn't want to know me. And
that's what I mean. You don't have the guilt about that, about not giving her enough time or not being with her enough, because she put that barrier there.
Grieving is a complicated process, and I'm going to be honest. I'm still not over the death of my mother, and that happened over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I still have issues with my late fiance, and that was over 10 years ago now.
And I'm with you on the mom thing not being over too, and it was 30
Yeah,
years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
can still spark memories for a
Oh.
long time.
I had to call the police to do a wellness check and have them tell me my mother had died, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
but yeah, it's just
Yeah, that's an even harsher way to find out.
Mm.
I was caring for my dad in a hospice type of situation at his home for a year and a half before he died. I was I moved in with him for that, and he died, and I know that it wasn't my fault, but I still had guilt about it for well over a year. I considered it my fault.
Well, I'm still dealing with Sloth Girl, of thinking that somehow if I'd spent more time with her, she'd still be here. But I know intellectually that's not the case. I couldn't have done anything to slow down the cancer, but emotionally, I still keep feeling that.
But take this advice for what it is and then ignore it if it's not useful. You can beat yourself up over it if you want, but it's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
The first year is always the hardest.
It was actually quite weird because when she disowned me, it actually made my life easier because the ball was in her court. Whether she had a relationship with me was up to her now. And I just hoped that she would come around.
I've actually heard that from a number of trans people.
And there are some people's lives there are some people whose passing makes the world a better place.
Yep.
I hope that's not the case for your mother.
It's not. She was a really nice person, other than this thing.
Yeah. For my father's
like everybody, they have a few hang-ups. It would be like my mother's a great person, but she's a Trump voter. Do you know what I mean? It's on the same league as that. There's a few flaws, but generally lovely person.
Well, if my brother wasn't a transphobic Trump voter, we might still be speaking to each other.
Well, if your mom was a Trump voter, then the Republicans got a serious problem with voter fraud.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just using an American analogy for you.
Yeah.
Unless she was an American citizen.
But like I say, I don't know. At the moment, I'm not even sure what I'm feeling. It's a weird thing because as someone with Asperger's, I kind of close off my feelings a lot. One of the things that I was curious about was, having all the female hormones in me now. Am I going to start becoming more emotional?
Yes.
Am I going to get an emotional awakening?
Yeah, your estrogen level can definitely affect your emotional responses.
Oh,
yes. Yes, but you'll do it in an autistic way.
Yeah. I mean, I wondered, weirdly, I actually started having that before I started HRT. And I think a part of it was the whole machismo, big boys don't cry kind of territory, and so you sort of hold it in, which is, the male machismo kind of thing. This is what men are supposed to do. And when I gave up the I'm a man sort of the way I was living, not that I felt that way inside anyway, it was okay to cry at a movie.
Yeah. It was socially acceptable for a woman, but not for a man.
Yeah. And so I didn't have the responsibility of holding it in anymore.
Yep.
So, like I say, it was an emotional awakening in a way. But I don't know. I'm not even sure if I've had, any difference. I mean, if this happened before I transitioned, before I started getting HRT, I think I would, feel exactly the same. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I've always been a person who analyzes things.
Well, I know that for about 5 months, my estrogen level had gone through the roof. We still don't know why. And during that time, the emotions, when I was presenting as male, I was always very flat. I literally did not feel anything. But when my emotions, when my estrogen got cranked up to like 3 times what it was supposed to be, I was having just overwhelming emotional outbursts.
Yeah,
And now that it's been brought back down to what they consider a normal range, yeah, I'm not having anything with that kind of intensity anymore.
Yeah, I remember crying at movies for the first time. I think the first one for me was Divergent.
Yeah. I'm actually, going to ask my doctor at my next checkup here if we can't go with a slightly higher level of the estrogen for me, just so that I'm not flat again, so that I'm still feeling something.
I also remember crying when I saw Rocket's story in the latest Guardians of the Galaxy because that was sad.
Yeah, there were a lot of moments.
But you'll
Don't
forget it was that.
spoiler, please.
I'm not going to tell you what the story is. It's just sad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
thank you.
in the last the Lord of the Rings movie, I remember seeing that in the theater, and yeah, I was actually having a problem with that because I was still presenting as male, but I was crying about the Ents going to war just because of my connections with the forest.
I've got a Lord of the Rings thing. I was on a hangout much like this, some Australian friends, and one of my friends was talking about the sort of a lot of the fluff involved with Lord of the Rings, and she said a name. She said Numenor, and I sort of, I had to wait because it immediately popped a joke in my head. So just so I can say the joke, Porpoise, do me a favor, say Numenor.
Numenor?
Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
No, oh man, slap
Damn it.
her.
Oh dear me, it made me laugh so much.
Yeah.
How dare you?
Oh. So anyway, we should wrap up here. Ember, what have you got coming up? What's the transposition doing?
Tomorrow, Transpositions Weekly, 8 p.m. Eastern, and I'm getting better at talking every day. It's a little difficult right now.
Well, I was
My
watching the
segment
premiere of your
is
good news yesterday.
Oh yeah, that was good news. Of course, gets its own segment the following, usually Monday. This week, there's a ton. It's a solid 30 minutes of
Yep.
of just banger after banger story. You'll definitely want to catch it.
What are we trying to catch? I'm sorry.
My good news segment on transpositions.
Oh, okay. Last week's show.
Yeah, last week's show, the segment standalone. So normally we do the full show on Thursday. We start with a panel with everybody who's there. The four of us: Stephanie, myself, Bree, and Carly, and guest hosts if we have them. And then we shift into, well, Bree's been changing it up a bit, but traditionally it's Bree's segment, which is whatever's on Bree's mind. Sometimes it's a science thing, sometimes it's a specific news story, whatever the case may be. And then my segment is good news, which sometimes it deviates, sometimes it's a review, sometimes it's a science focus, but I usually try to bring up good news stories because that's the thing that the community very, very badly needs, particularly in this toxic ass political climate. We need some good news. So that's what I try to focus on. Then usually Steph comes on, talks about sporting news or sporting happenings, or sometimes historical stuff because Steph does more than one thing. And then there's Carly's segment, which is very heavily sports focused. And sometimes a guest host will join for one of those. There's a lot of fluidity, but it does come in discrete segments. Every host gets their own thing.
Yep. Well, Steph, you have anything to add about your part, or did Ember take all your lines away?
No. It's well, I think she did a really good job of describing what the show's about, and we have some pretty great guests coming on over the course of the next few weeks, and that'll be fun. I
Like
think
who? Like who?
Carly has. We're rolling back. We're just check in. Well,
Yep.
got
No
got
spoilers.
some.
I
no
mean,
spoilers.
I know who's on next Thursday.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
don't know for sure.
Luxander. So
Yeah.
Luxander will be with us a week from tomorrow, and so that'll be fun.
I'm fucking thrilled. So I was trying to reach Luxander for a while, but it was finally Luxander's chat who noticed that I was hanging out in the chat and was like, "You
Oh,
need to talk
really?
to Ember about getting it on transpositions."
I
I'm like,
followed
yeah.
Luxander before he even began to transition.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'll have to catch that one.
Yeah. I really enjoy
there's that
Lux's
coming up,
vibe.
and then we've got I'm not sure what I'm going to be covering tomorrow. I usually we try to be as topical as possible. Like try to hop on stories that happen during the week or are late breaking. I think we were one of the first channels to even discuss the nonsense at the Paris Olympics. We covered that story the day it broke, and we went into depth on it. So so I'm not sure what's coming up, but I'm gonna. If anybody's got any ideas, drop them in the Discord.
Don't forget, this week was the J.K. Rowling having a go at someone in the Paralympics.
Yeah. Well, there's that. I'm sure. I think Carly's all over that as well.
I wrote her a
and that's,
very
that,
nasty
that
email
actually
on that.
broke sometime this week. It might have. It broke
it was
last week, and we did a segment on the Italian runner whose name it escapes me at the moment. But
the other one has been, of course, the Trump saying that you send your kids to school and they come back trans.
That'll probably be part of the panel segment.
Wait, I sent two kids back trans today.
I think Bree is may not be around for tomorrow's show, but she's taking a little bit of a break. But she might be. You never know what'll happen on the transition. So that's
Porpoise,
what
you've got to make sure you've got it scheduled so that you've trans them all by the end of the semester.
Listen, I've got to be careful about saying that because some idiots will take me seriously.
Yeah, true.
Even though it's like, what facilities do you think are in a public school to do this?
Well, you see, I live in a small town, and our schools they're okay. They seem to do a good job, but they don't have the kind of budget that can do that. So I opened up my my second bedroom, and we're going to be doing them in there.
Nice.
I got my knife sharpened and everything.
Yeah, public schools are not medical facilities.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of specialist info for you. I'm a model maker, and I buy models. I use a scalpel for my modeling stuff. And when I buy scalpels, they're not sterilized, but you can sterilize them, of course. But when you get them, you can get them in a box of 200. That's enough for 200 emos. I'm sorry, that was dark humor.
Yep, I got it. It's like I was trying to develop emo grass because then it would cut itself.
They do have that.
Sorry about that.
So, Porpoise, you have anything coming up on your other channel or anything?
Well, eventually I would like to go back to my regular channel, but that's contingent upon some things happening that don't seem to be in the near future.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't know, I have a channel called Mad Computer Scientist. It covers math and computer science topics, which I know you all love, especially Jenny. I actually did do something on a main Khalif, but it was mostly because Capturing Christianity mistook ChatGPT for a research tool, which annoys them.
For fuck's sake. Cameron has just completely gone off in the last several years.
Well, he's not the only one that does it, but ChatGPT is not a research tool. But the things I had planned were a video on the laws of logarithms, which I seem to have missed, and I don't know where it went, so I have to redo the video. And every Friday, I do something called Faulty Logic Fridays, where if you want to point out a video to me where you think someone's logic is just way off, their math is bad, or it's just funny, I would welcome that because I kind of feel like I'm getting in a rut. And I've been doing it at 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time just because someone is premiering their videos at 9 Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, go ahead.
Porp, I just want to make it very clear regarding your comment of my mathematics and things. I memorized the entire tables of multiplication up to 12. Okay, and I finally became comfortable with the concept of algorithms when I did some reading and realized that hollow logs have been used for thousands of years.
Yeah, now
logarithms or algorithms, because they're not the same thing.
Whichever.
Let me just point out that we have a British standard for these things.
Algorithms would be beaten on an empty skull, and he's not passed yet.
In Britain, we have a standardized system. We call it the British standard. You call it federal standard, but we have our own version, the British standard version, and we call them Anglo rhythms.
Related to the BTU.
See what happens when you bring up math?
Yep. Okay.
Hey,
Mage, what have you got going on?
Well, despite it being sick, Nick, I still plan to do our midnight showing tomorrow over in my Discord.
Oh, and I have to go be Miss Purpose tomorrow.
That'll be it's a midnight showing, so it'll be tomorrow night midnight. My time, it's Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, so that's going to be 11 o'clock our time.
Yeah, it's about that. So I'll be playing at least the first 3 episodes of Zombieland Saga. It's an anime. Maybe more if you guys like, but I would really like to get to the trans reveal episode, but I think 8 episodes might be a little bit much for one showing.
Okay.
Yeah. Midnight real time, got it.
Well, I think I have found my story for
Thanks for
tomorrow.
reminding me so I can set an alarm to make sure I'm there for it.
One of these days, Terre Haute's going to be put in the time zone it should be in, and then I'll be in Central Time.
I believe I have found my story for tomorrow. It's a story in The Guardian. Religious groups spending billions to counter gender equality education.
That surprises no one.
Report reveals how U.S. Christians, Catholic schools, and Islamists fight sex education, LGBTQ+, and equal rights.
Okay, they should just have all of those people should have their genitals. Never mind, I can't say that. We'll get in trouble.
It's a pretty good story. I think I'll put this right in pocket and
I just
do a little bit more.
Go ahead.
Since the topic was brought up here, I would like to recommend that you guys get a hold of Mage and ask for the link to the Louisiana study that he's read, and I'm about 2/3 through. It's really very good and answers just all sorts of the bullshit mythology that exists around trans, and particularly trans kids. In terms of what they get, when they get it, how old they are, these sorts of things. It's really worth reading.
Yeah, I wanted to cover that today, but I don't have the energy for it. But
well,
the interesting thing about that is it was requested to try and attack trans people.
Oh,
okay.
It's about 45 pages.
Okay, we can keep talking privately, but is everybody done for me to shut down the show here?
Just one thing.
Oh yeah.
One thing I want to say.
You didn't ask me what I got going, so let Porpoise say, and I'll go on after.
Okay.
Just one thing I want to say quickly. I'm at 241 subscribers. That's 15 away from the next power of 2. Go out and subscribe.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, I'll subscribe another 15 times.
There you go.
That'll work.
Okay, Jenny.
Well, what I've got going is really quite fascinating. If I do remember, I intend to be watching Mage's midnight movie. I guess it could be. Did you say Thursday or Friday?
Tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Thursday.
Thursday night.
Thank you. Boy, Thursday's a busy day. I got to go to 2 food banks, and that. Oh, geez, better take a nap. The other thing I'm up to is. Oh wait, Oh, nothing. I'm sorry.
We know you're causing trouble on TikTok.
Well, there is that, but those are all ad lib kind of assignments. I don't have anything
Okay.
scheduled. Actually, last night I just want to pass on and stroke myself a little bit, which I'll
Giggity.
do when the AC outlet is open. We had this person who was questioning but willing to learn, and I was able to give them enough history and accurate contemporary information that they completely revised their negative view of trans people and admitted to being how wrong that they've been and how they've been polluted by lies and stuff. So there's hope for people out there if you're ever able to talk with somebody, folks.
Okay, well, I just want to thank the people who have been supporting us. These Kidney the Atheist, Robert X, Greg Hartwick, Southern Cell, and Skitzcrasher. You know, we appreciate it. And yeah, next month my subscription to the StreamYards is going to come due, so that's where it's all going to go. So with that, we bid you all a goodbye and see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Get lunch to each other, and so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Be gay, do